This feudal lord is highly scientific. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 326, The Terrifying Emperor Woomian. Boom. The iron hammer slammed with a single law, and the wind blade dissipated directly. Misty could feel that there was only one law when the iron hammer slammed. The law of power. Lin Ke's backup. Princess Misty immediately knew that the owner of the iron hammer must be one of Lin Ke's backups. Originally, she thought that Lin Ke's backup would be that ancestor Azanan, the master level. But now it seems that in addition to that master level, Lin Ke actually has other backups. And at this moment, a person's body condensed behind Princess Misty. "Your Majesty, how are you these days?" The voice was brisk and elegant, sounding like a chant or a soft chant. Princess Misty turned around and asked in surprise, "Mr. Noble? Why are you here?" Mr. Noble pounded his chest to show respect, smiled and said, "If Mr. Lin Ke creates a pantheon, I will definitely become his right-hand man." At this time, Mr. Noble was not as good as before. In the memory of Princess Misty, Mr. Noble has always been a god who combines arrogance and humility, elegance and lowliness, full of contradictions. If you say he is humble, he is putting on airs in front of believers and people of lower levels than him. If you say he is arrogant, in front of people like Misty, Mr. Noble is almost humble to the dust. He appears in various evening parties of Abyss Nobles all day long. It can be said that Misty and others look down on him. But at this time, Misty found that Mr. Noble had changed. Mr. Noble at this time has an inexplicable temperament, which makes Princess Misty a little confused. After looking at Mr. Noble for a while, and even sending out a little mist to touch him, Princess Misty raised her eyebrows. "Have you changed your position as a priest? There is no collapse of your godhead? This is all thanks to Mr. Lin Ke." Mr. Noble smiled and said, "This is also the reason why I came here. My godhead told me that with Mr. Lin Ke, everything is possible. The everything you said should include death, right?" At this time, another voice sounded. Mr. Noble smiled awkwardly. "I believe Mr. Lin Ke will not treat me as an abandoned child." "Sister?" Princess Misty exclaimed, turned around. "You are here too?" The figure of the dark girl also appeared in the darkness behind Mr. Noble, with a little milky white at the corner of her mouth, as if she had just drunk something. "I'm not here to help Lin Ke. I'm just here to redeem the souls here. To redeem souls." The dark girl carried her huge sickle, her face calm. Princess Misty glanced at the corner of the dark girl's mouth and said speechlessly, "Do you need lucky jade fruit milk to redeem souls?" Damn, did the dark girl slowly taste a bottle of lucky jade fruit milk before coming to protect the great wilderness? Too abominable. Princess Misty smacked her lips, thinking about the milk tea she swallowed in a hurry. Always felt that she was a bit of a loss to drink the result of queuing for half a day in one gulp. Ahem. The dark girl coughed lightly, then pointed to the sky lightly. "Go and help Li Guan Mobi." "Li Guan Mobi?" Princess Misty reacted immediately. She said why the big hammer looked so familiar. It turned out to be the iron hammer of Great Forger, Li Guan Mobi, the glory of Marshal Azin. Feldjimmer's little guy, are you stupid? How dare you come to the city of Marshal Azain's descendants? Li Guan Mobi's figure appeared in the air, holding an iron hammer and releasing a powerful aura without fear. Level 25. I didn't expect that there would be such a strong man in the small great wilderness city. What a pity, alas. Outside the great wilderness city, the young man from Feldjimmer shook his head with a sad face. "Your Highness Riano, the mist banshee killed the son of the forest in our forest hut. Please kill her." Behind the young man, a deer man holding a bow and arrow spoke to the young man, looking at the mist banshee with hatred. "Alas, always killing, killing, killing. The Lord told us that we can't do that. It's not good. But the Lord also said to kill them." "Okay, then kill them all." The young man called Riano raised the dark wooden stick in his hand high, and murderous intent burst out in his eyes. "God is coming." A huge amount of white light emanated from Riano's eyes, mouth and other places, and the originally dark wooden stick also broke into pieces, turning into a flickering light stick. A beam of light shot up from the wooden stick, and it was unknown where it was heading. God is coming. Li Guanmobi's expression also became solemn. Darkness, fog, don't hide. The eternal twilight of Feljima is an extremely powerful dominant god. Li Guanmobi weighed the glory of martial Azanan in his hand, and streams of magma emerged from his body. He opened his mouth and roared, "For the glory of martial Azanan." It sounded tragic and majestic, just like the most loyal warrior of the Azanan family. The dark girl and the princess of mist looked at each other, and their bodies both soared into the air, and followed the noble gentleman. At this time, weak legends like the Phoenix did not even have the opportunity to intervene. They could only try their best to block the aftermath of the war, and prevent it from affecting the great desert city. And King Shur and others outside the city also took this opportunity to rush into the city. When everyone in the city thought that a war was about to break out, several legends in the sky were stunned. Rayano, who had just been frowning, suddenly changed his expression and put down the stick he had raised high in an instant, but it was too late. The light column that had originally risen straight up to the sky wanted to be retracted, but it was occupied by an inexplicable force. Then, Li Guanmobi and the others were shocked to find that the sky had changed. It was not just the sky of the great wasteland city. It was the sky of the entire Nasam. Eternal twilight, who gave you the courage? The voice of the Emperor Wumian spread throughout the entire Nasam continent, just like the air and light, covering the entire continent. Li Guanmobi and the others looked up and saw a huge and boundless black and white giant phantom in the sky. The sun and the moon appeared in the sky at the same time, and the originally bright half of the sky turned dark. The sky of this planet is composed of 3 large plain crystal walls, representing Nasang, Feljima and Qus. That is, the Void Abyss continent, the Eternal Twilight continent and the Beast Spirit continent. In addition, there are 3 oceans, the Ocean of Stars and Waves, the Primal Storm Sea, and the Abyss of Deathsode. At this time, the plain crystal wall appeared, with various stars hanging on it. Each star represents a god or legend. The appearance of the plain crystal wall proves that someone is now on this planet, drawing the power of the origin. It is that black and white shadow. The shadow raised the white hand on the right side of the body and slapped a light ball emitting a pale yellow dim light not far away. Impossible, I'm obviously level 30. An unbelievable old voice came from the light ball. The black and white shadow sneered, level 30? It's the same when you reach level 100. After that, the light ball popped and went out. The black and white shadow disappeared, and the sun, moon, and stars in the sky disappeared again. It was as if nothing had happened, except that the sound of pop still echoed in everyone's mind. Chapter 327 The Growth of Fanai Organization. Destroyed. Destroyed? Li Guanmobi suddenly couldn't understand. Could it be that he had been in seclusion for too long and the world was changing too fast? Why did he feel like there was a lot of thunder but little rain? When the people from Feljima appeared, Li Guanmobi smelled an unparalleled crisis. He seemed to have returned to the long ago mythological era. At that time, it was just like today, with all kinds of legends fighting at any time, and the battle was dark and chaotic. From time to time, the masters of the 3 main planes would come out to fight. At that time, the Holy Life Alliance was very strong, and the 5 masters dominated the world. Several continents were almost sunk, and earthquakes, tsunamis and storms swept the entire planet. But there was no Emperor Wumian at that time, so there was no such shocking scene. The entire sky, the entire planet, and the 3 main planes were all shocked by Emperor Wumian. Emperor Wumian was not only the king of Nasang, but also the strongest of the 3 main planes. The sun god, the moon goddess, the 5-colored dragon mother, the eternal twilight. They were all just the foil of Emperor Wumian. The originally sluggish Li Guanmobi seemed to have returned to the days when he fought bloody battles with Grand Marshal Esnan. He couldn't help but get excited and burst into tears. In the sky, the black and white shadow of Emperor Wumian dissipated, and the planet returned to peace. Li Guanmobi, Princess Misty Dark Girl, Mr. Noble and more than a dozen Warcraft kings all looked up. The young man named Riano was pale at this time, including the legends of the forest hut and those secondary planes. Too powerful. Too terrifying. They came here this time because they were sure that Emperor Wumian would be suppressed by the eternal twilight, or even defeated and killed. However, this was not the case. catch you first, and wait for the descendants of that Grand Marshal to come back and deal with you. Li Guan Mobi swung the glory of Grand Marshal Azanan, and 3 sledgehammers appeared in the sky, knocking down those people with bang bang. Suddenly, 7 or 8 weaker legends fell like dumplings. How pitiful. Seeing this scene, the Princess of Misty smiled and rushed over quickly. During the flight, her body turned into thick white mist. The white mist spread out in an instant. This time she didn't need to defend herself. She just had to trap the enemies and then eat them. The dark girl had a cold face, and her body turned into a black dot and disappeared on the spot. When she reappeared, she had already emerged on the shadow of a certain monster and swung the huge sickle over, trying to harvest souls. Mr. Noble stayed at the top of the Great Wilderness Tower and threw a golden round seal into the sky. Noble emblem. Mr. Noble's voice was full of elegance, and his whole body was boiling with divine power. Artifact. Noble emblem. After being thrown up by Mr. Noble, the emblem became bigger and bigger, and finally turned into a layer of light golden film covering the Great Wilderness City. The remaining dozen or so monster kings also came out in full force, and rushed towards the legends of the secondary planes above. But legends are always legends, and in the end, these legends basically fled in all directions. Only Rihanna was captured alive, and 3 other secondary plane legends were killed. All of them were killed by the Dark Girl, and the bodies and souls were also received by the Dark Girl. All the people in the forest hut were killed, and 2 of them were gods, and their divinity was taken. Next, it is to guard Rihanna well, and wait for Lin Ke to come back. After all, he is a powerful legend of level 25. No matter how he is used, it is better than killing him directly. Architect Velen and the dragon soul of the magma dragon standing on the top of the Great Wasteland City also began to inform the citizens of the Great Wasteland. Attention, citizens. Attention, citizens. Now the crisis in the Great Wasteland City has been resolved. Please return to your posts in an orderly manner. Repeat. The voice spread throughout the Great Wasteland City, and the citizens immediately walked out of their homes with normal expressions. There is no way. They are used to it. Their life in the Great Wasteland City is so good that there will always be people who envy and jealous. They just need to obey the arrangements and listen carefully to the plans above. So, the Great Wasteland City returned to tranquility. But it was still surging in the dark. For example, the forces in the far west countries that intervened in this attack, whether it was the Forest Hut or the Three-Pointed Killer Organization, were all secretly recorded by Scholar Great Wilderness. Waiting for the backbone of the Great Wilderness to come back, it is time to settle accounts. At this time, the backbone of the Great Wilderness is drawing on a piece of Azanan's top grade magic paper that is 8 meters long and 5 meters wide. Lin Ke's body is drawing. 5 months have passed since the occupation of Cast Mountain. Armed with the thoughts of Bak, the king of fire demons, the Phaser people have shown extraordinary unity. The existence of the Phagi allows them to feel each other's feelings more. Excitement. Excitement is transmitted in the Phagi. Sadness. Sadness is transmitted in the Phagi. Anger. Anger is transmitted in the Phagi. Although it can be hidden and covered up, once you join the phase of Anai party, you basically treat each other sincerely. At the same time, Bak quickly spreads in the Phaser plane with the help of Lin Ke's name. Unite. All Phaser people unite. Overthrow the oppression of schools, sects and temples. All mortals, wild mages and people who are determined to save Phaser, all unite. Save Phaser. Drive away the foreign invaders who invaded their homeland. Learn from the barbarians to defeat the barbarians. Phaser has always been on the wrong path. Find the right path. In this case, there is no need for Lin Ke's real body to take action. Countless Phaser people have secretly united. How does the ordinary and wild party develop members? It's very simple. Mortals and wild mages are always at the bottom of society. They know better where there are secret passages in a city, where there is the most information, and where people are oppressed the most. So, unknowingly, Phaser has more than 800 citizen villages of all sizes covered by the ordinary and wild party. What does Lin Ke need to do? He just needs to give some general strategies, and the specific implementation will naturally be done by Ms. Yang and others. So he only left an optical clone there, and the real body came to continue to maintain the inaction personality. Of course, as time passed, he believed that the people on Nassen's side had already seen it. Although he supported the native buck of the Fassa Plain, the effect was much better than other forces' hard work. Although there was no oppression and resource plundering, the score in the noble evaluation would definitely be very high, and it might even break through the top 20. I don't know how to score, these are the business of the top leaders of Nassen. But watching Lin Ke paint is much more interesting than watching those fighting and killing. Why did you like to watch fighting and killing in your previous life? Because there is no fighting and killing in real life. Why does Nassen like to watch Lin Ke quietly paint? Because Nassen is full of fighting and killing. In particular, Lin Ke's paintings are very beautiful. For example, this painting at this time is the back of a young man in armor. It's the last day. Please vote. It will expire if you don't vote. Chapter 328 Artist Lin Ke. To break through level 15, you need to choose the right direction. Lin Ke silently said this in his heart. This is what Garros told Lin Ke after breaking through level 15. This sentence is also what Emperor Wumian meant. Direction is very important. Diversity is not as good as refinement. Refinement is not as good as specialization. Legends are fine. After all, no matter what law you choose, it doesn't matter. But for gods, when the priesthood overlaps, they will be affected by each other. And there is feedback. If legends want to successfully advance, they need a huge amount of feedback. If you have no talent in thunder and lightning, but choose the law of thunder and lightning, then you can either change direction or die. For example, Mr. Noble, he has not made any progress for hundreds or thousands of years. Li Guan Mobi is the same. It took hundreds of years to advance to the next level. In other words, like Lin Ke and his followers, those who have reached the 10th level in a dozen years are already considered gifted. After all, bloodline talents are not bad. Lin Ke is currently preparing to choose the direction for himself, which is mechanics, optics, thermodynamics, electricity and atomic physics. This is one of the most powerful subjects in the previous life, called physics. Don't forget that Lin Ke has 3 bloodlines, and they are Andrew level. He now has a lot of professions in each bloodline, but it does not affect his continued promotion. Knowledge bloodline, in addition to inventor, he is mainly scholar and has come up with mathematician, physicist, biologist, chemist etc. But in the end, Lin Ke wants to synthesize a profession, that is, scientist. At the same time, in addition to these part-time jobs, there are also some small part-time jobs. For example, painter, author, composer etc. But too many is always bad. And now, Lin Ke is trying to integrate these part-time jobs and finally create a profession with author as the core. Artist, knowledge bloodline, scientist, and artist. Creating with stories and content, whether it is painting, music or other, cannot be separated from expression. Lin Ke thought while painting, and the power of painter slowly flowed through his body. What was the novel called in the previous life? One-dimensional. The text expression of one dimension can give birth to two-dimensional and three-dimensional works. From text to pictures to animated pictures and sounds, they are all interconnected. Lin Ke is now taking the tray of author as the core, adding other trays, and is fusing them. At this time in his soul space, the small tree belonging to the knowledge bloodline is already more than 10 meters high. More than 10 meters. In the previous life, it is considered 2 or 3 floors. On such a high tree, many branches representing professions grow wantonly, and leaves are shining, each representing a certain trait or skill. Each leaf will show a special anomaly. For example, on the branch of scholar, a leaf that looks like an ice sculpture is the skill 0, and another leaf that is like a gaseous wind is pressure. In addition, there are overheating, refraction and focusing, which are extremely conspicuous among the leaves. At this time, the other branches are fine, but the branches of author, painter, and others began to tremble to varying degrees. The leaves above fell one by one, fell at the roots of the tree, and merged into it in an instant, turning into several groups of phantoms wandering at the branches. Art, expression, presentation, perspective, well, maybe add the mind and senses. Outside, Lin Ke's face turned pale because of the disappearance of several professions, but his eyes became brighter and brighter. NASA is the main plane, and many people often have their eyes shining when they use the power of their profession. Eyes are the windows of the soul. When the eyes shine, it just proves that the blood in the body has been running to the limit of efficiency, and the blood in the soul space has also begun to absorb element. This is what Lin Ke is like at this time. The light in his eyes is getting stronger and stronger, and the brush in his hand is getting faster and faster. Dancer, performer, clown. These professions make him extremely flexible. His body flew up and down in front of the drawing paper, as graceful as a startled swan and as graceful as a swimming dragon. What he was painting was called powerful. What is powerful? When the armored boy Baiguan raised his sword and stabbed the flame demon king, was he weak or powerful? The real power is to dare to raise the sword to the stronger. Only dare to fight the weaker. That can only be considered a coward. Lin Ke admired Baiguan very much, so he took it down. Such courage is fearless. As Lin Ke worked on the painting for 13 consecutive days without sleep, the whole picture gradually took shape. A weak and pale boy wearing armor jumped into a ball of fiercely burning lava. The whole picture was rendered in the red color of the aggressive fire, except for the boy's armor, which was shining white. Next to him, 10 meters away from Lin Ke, the human nobles who came on behalf of Gila were watching. As expected of Earl Lin Ke, this painting seems to be more than just a painting. I seem to see countless words on the drawing paper forming an epic, praising the hero who went to the fire. A human viscount praised. Another person ate milk berries and responded with a smile. Yes, I seem to have seen the whole process of the heroic epic. Hey, look, the armored hero is moving. As soon as the man finished speaking, others also spoke up. It's moving. It's moving. Your eyes are blurry. That's one of Count Link's professions, the basic ability of a painter. I seem to hear an extremely brave song. Who is singing? The human nobles exclaimed one by one. Not far away, Garros touched the two small mustaches at the corners of his mouth thoughtfully. Oh, this is an artist. Lin Ke chewed a piece of sour fruit milk cake, which was a snack she specially put in her space ring. Artist? Oh no, artist? Lalita looked at Lin Ke curiously. Yeah. This reminds me of someone, a very annoying person, who pinched my face since I was a child and mixed with a guy Misty. Speaking of artists, Lin Ke seemed to remember something bad. What is art? Lalita didn't quite understand. She grew up in a place like Pink Street and didn't come into contact with much later. Art is, oh, anyway, it's just painting, reciting poems, and all that kind of shit. Rika waved her hand, a little disliked these two words. My dad said that art is something that can make people feel impacted. Impact? Lalita frowned. Does that mean my sledgehammer is also art? Almost. Rika swallowed the last half of the milk cake, clapped her hands, and then said, by the way, Nix is still helping Buck train the medical team? Yes. Lalita was helpless. I can't help it. They wanted me to train those new knights, but I'm too lazy. Fortunately Master Garros' followers are powerful enough. Haha, maybe they can be liberated in the future. At this time, Lin Ke's laughter came. Rika and Lalita looked over together. The painting is finished. Exclamation mark. It's the last day of May. Please vote for me. Chapter 329 Lin Ke's paintings. You did it? Lin Ke was surprised and then jumped up from the chair. Ahem. Lin Ke, pay attention to your image. Lalita gently pulled Lin Ke's wizard robe. Are you kidding? It's a live broadcast outside now. You are a princess and the wife of the Lord of the Great Wilderness. Lalita and Lin Ke have a good relationship, so she reminded her like this. Lin Ke didn't care and pulled Lalita over. Yes, it's done. Lin Ke walked over with a smile, exuding a special temperament. Little Lin Ke, you suddenly look so handsome. Lin Ke looked at Lin Ke and was stunned for a moment. Then, in front of the Nathan audience, she hugged Lin Ke and kissed him hard on the cheek. Handsome? Lin Ke looked at Lin Ke with a smile. Maybe it's because I'm now a level 5 artist. Great. Lin Ke kissed him again, and even wanted to kiss him on the mouth, and even wanted to stick out her tongue. But Lin Ke knew that it was a live broadcast at this time, so he couldn't perform such an exciting scene. Okay, get down quickly. Lin Ke patted Lin Ke hanging on him, and looked at the painting behind him. I'm going to send this painting to Buck and others, and take it back after the noble's review is over. Painting? Oh, yes, painting. Lin Ke looked at the painting behind Lin Ke and then immersed herself in it again. Painting? This is no longer a painting. It's a novel, a movie, a piece of music, a dance. Artist? But my father said that no artist has become a legend yet. Lin Ke looked a little worried when she came to her senses, but she figured it out again. Fortunately, this is just your part-time job. No legend? It's okay. Lin Ke waved his hand, and a legend came out without a legend. Do you still remember the man named Ruin I told you about? Lin Ke said, he is actually very suitable to be an artist, but because he has no legend, he finally chose a soul manipulator. Yeah. Lin Ke also expressed his understanding. Generally speaking, truly powerful nobles will not let their descendants get involved in those professions that have no legends, and part-time jobs are possible. Mist really likes that guy Riven, you don't know. Lin Ke wanted to expose Missy's dirty secrets, but Lin Ke covered her mouth in time. Lin Ke covered Lin Ke's mouth and looked at Garros who was walking over. Lin Ke, I think this painting has a strong effect. Garros praised, looking at this painting, I feel that the morale in my heart has been stimulated. Yes, it is very good in enhancing people's willpower. Lin Ke replied, it is suitable for use in the army. I plan to give it to the people here in Phaser first, and then use it for our troops in the future. Okay. No matter when Garros looks at Lin Ke, he likes him more and more, and he is more and more proud of him. By the way, Earl Tulip, how are your plant collections going? Lin Ke looked at another person. Earl Tulip. He came here to get a good ranking and score in the noble evaluation to get some kind of prize. It is also one of the layouts of the Grand Duke of Greenleaf. He wants to let Earl Tulip come in so that the Gila people will not lose too badly. Of course, the result is that with Lin Ke, Earl Tulip only needs to assist. Although no one thought that Lin Ke did not fight with others, nor did he plunder or occupy. Instead, he had fun every day. So Earl Tulip also pursued his hobbies, went into the forest, dug a hammer here, and poked a little soil there. He also obtained a lot of plant seeds because of this. He was like a wild boar in heat all day long. It is said that he made a lot of trouble in the few nearby forests. But Earl Tulip's ability is also unquestionable. With him and liquor, Lin Ke does not have to worry about food, vegetables, and fruits. Milk berries, pamami roots and other father specialties are constantly produced. Even though the troops are undergoing high intensity training every day, a large number of people still store excess fat. Is this fat important? It is very important. There are not so many reasons. Things like fat affecting the beauty of the body and affecting mobility are not very useful. Fat is an energy storage substance. In his previous life, Lin Ke knew a name called General's Belly. Why is it called General's Belly? Because it is a state where fat and muscle are mixed together. It not only guarantees strength, but also guarantees sufficient energy storage materials. The generals in the previous life were not like those in those dramas, all skinny and white-skinned, and each one was more handsome than the other. The general's beard and hair can prevent many mosquito bites, and the thick fat can provide them with a sufficient source of energy. And now, with a layer of extra fat growing, these Gila people are very happy. According to Lin Ke's observation, fat can even be transformed into elemental energy. He guessed how much energy the big belly of the sleepless emperor must store. While thinking about the treasonous content in his mind, Lin Ke looked at the Earl of Tulip and smiled sincerely. The fat Earl of Tulip smiled. I have collected a lot. It seems that we can cooperate in more areas in the future. Yes, well, just build a teleportation array in the Great Wasteland City. Lin Ke smiled. Teleportation array? Earl of Tulip frowned suddenly and approached Lin Ke. Why is it a teleportation array? Because you are Earl of Tulip. Lin Ke smiled as usual. Must it be a teleportation array? It must be. Long distance teleportation array? Long distance. After a period of riddles, Earl Tulip left absent-mindedly. Lin Ke smiled nonchalantly. Why should he connect with Earl Tulip through a teleportation array? Because he now trusts Earl Tulip more. Earl Tulip, who originally loved flowers and plants, was able to enter here under the instruction of Grand Duke Greenleaf. In addition to needing one of the items, the more important thing was to prevent the Gila people from losing too badly. His character was not bad, and Earl Tulip was kind by nature in many cases. He didn't even have many of the noble problems that Garros had. In addition, Lin Ke could feel Earl Tulip's kindness and sincerity, so he could accept things like teleportation arrays. It's not enough to have only himself in Dahuang City and Dazan. Adding the Marquis of Giant Sword and Erlakali is not enough. Nasang is very important as Lin Ke's base, especially after seeing that the large plane of Phaser has been reduced to a secondary plane. Lin Ke realized the importance of Nasang. The poorest people in Nasang may have better bloodline, knowledge, etc. than those in Father. Regardless of whether there is a stronger plane than Nasang, what Lin Ke has to do now is to try his best to gather all the resources that can be gathered and become stronger. He has not forgotten that Emperor Wumian told him that another main plane will appear in 100 years. Chapter 330 The Effect of Paintings. Thinking of this, Lin Ke looked at Lin Ke. Lin Ke just came back to her senses and looked at Lin Ke. Who is that boy inside? I almost beat him. Lin Ke's eyes were full of surprise, and there was a slight sweat on her forehead. It's the young knight under Buck's command. I think his name is Baiguang. Lin Ke smiled. He has fearless courage. I admire him very much. Oh, so he is under Buck's command. Lin Ke smacked her lips meaningfully. Buck, when that guy was in the form of a fire demon, his chest muscles were very big. Lin Ke was a little embarrassed. Really? Well, I didn't notice. Oh, by the way, I'll take the painting first. Then Lin Ke ran away quickly, as if a master was chasing him. It's strange. Lin Ke is obviously a fledgling. Why is she like a person who has tasted the marrow and tasted the taste every day? Just like those male high school students and male college students, they are trembling all day long. And women are as fierce as tigers at the age of 40. Lin Ke is like this now. What will happen in the future? It was too scary. Lin Ke ran over with the painting, leaving Rika smiling at Lalita, causing Lalita to shake her head helplessly. Training ground. Lin Ke came over with his painting, then put down the easel, and put the painting on it. At this time, everyone who was charging on the training ground looked over. Everyone, there will be one more task every day from now on, which is to go in and fight this boy every day. Lin Ke said loudly, and his voice was transmitted through the sound amplification technique. Fight. Lin Ke used several skills when painting, such as lifelike and imaginary space. So anyone who sees the painting can fight the imaginary white light. His great wilderness knights looked over. All of a sudden, they were shocked by the back of the white light. And in the next moment, they stood still, including John, chess player, Yale and others. In the painting powerful, John faced the white light like this. They were each stood in a team of 50 knights, responsible for communication and coordination of energy. In such a collision, how to coordinate energy is very important. John frowned and felt that, although the armor of the young man in front of him was not earth-shattering, it made him feel a kind of courage to move forward. Under this courage, his stable knights lost their sharpness and were rushed to pieces. Yale was the same. As a teenager, he was naturally young and vigorous. As soon as he came in, he and Baiguang each acted as a chess player to fight. His various chess formations are ever changing and endless. After all, his talent in chess is admired by even Lin Ke. In this case, he was broken by the chess formation of Baiguang on the opposite side. A formation that moves forward without regard for life and death. Under this impact, whether it is defense or avoidance, it will be beaten to death. And it is impossible to dodge, avoid, or let go. After a while, Yale woke up and looked at John, and the surprise in both of their eyes could be seen. They actually lost. After everyone came out of the world in the painting, Lin Ke estimated the situation. The Great Wilderness Knights, together with the Knights and the Lava Lions, were just enough to be powerful. The capacity of life form consciousness is about 2000. But this is because he used the power of artist for the first time. I believe that if he wants to, he will definitely make a breakthrough in the future. How do you feel? Lin Ke asked with a smile when he saw that they all woke up. Master, how can that boy be so powerful? I feel that his energy allocation skills have reached perfection. John's voice was full of admiration. Could it be a butler above level 15? Butler? I think he is more like a powerful chess player, but Yale also said, but he also reacted as he spoke. Butler is okay. After all, Nasan does not lack this profession. But the profession of chess player was created by Lin Ke himself. Isn't the most powerful chess player in Nasan currently Yale himself? Could it be? Yale had understood by now. That's right, that boy is the courage in your heart. Lin Ke nodded. Only when you truly gain recognition of the word courage and fearlessness in your heart can you defeat him. Gain your own recognition. Gain recognition of what you think is courage and fearlessness. Everyone suddenly realized, and then their faces became complicated. Some people were proud, some were ashamed, and some were unwilling to accept it. This painting must be practiced every night until everyone in the Great Wilderness Nights can gain their own recognition. Lin Ke said loudly. For the glory of the Great Wilderness Nights. Everyone shouted together, with high morale. Lin Ke nodded slightly, then looked at Yale. Yale, where is Nix? Yale was gored by a Gillable when he was a child, and Nix saved him and became a doctor because of this, so the two have a good relationship. Mr. Nix just went to collect and identify herbs. He said that after collecting, he will go to the medical team to train doctors and nurses. Yale replied. Okay, I'll go find him. After that, Lin Ke walked in another direction. After Nix came here, he went to collect herbs. He is a doctor and a poisoner. However, he is kind-hearted and has experienced life and death since childhood, so he did not use the profession of poisoner well. Lin Ke did not force Nix. After all, there are many ways to kill people, and it is not Nix's turn to poison anyone at the moment. But it is not completely useless. At least Nix is not afraid of being poisoned to death by tasting hundreds of herbs. He even collected a lot of poison essences condensed by him from Nix. After not being afraid of being poisoned to death, the only disadvantage of Nix tasting hundreds of herbs is the taste problem. However, he himself is not a spoiled person, so it is not an impact. Now, Nix is tasting all kinds of plants in Fasa and marking out their various uses. His former herb encyclopedia has now become plant encyclopedia, and it has also become a level 10 magic item, which is very practical. Nix's dream is to compile all the plants in the heavens and stars, and then give them as a gift and reward to Lin Ke. Lin Ke strongly supports Nix's dream. However, when he just arrived at the forest outside, he found that the breath was slightly wrong. The breath of divine power. Lin Ke frowned. In front of him, there was a layer of mist covering the forest, and the vision became blurred. The breath on this layer of mist was the breath of divine power. Lin Ke narrowed his eyes and put part of his consciousness on the wand of annihilation in the space ring, which he could take out at any time. Then he walked forward. As soon as he came in, the scenery inside changed. It turned into an extremely huge palace. On Children's Day, all the adults and children, please give me a wave of monthly tickets to guarantee the minimum. I added more chapters last month, and I will work hard to add more chapters this month. Please give me monthly tickets. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 331 Becoming a God. After the fog engulfed Lin Ke was actually teleported to a palace without knowing it. Seeing this, Lin Ke knew that this must be the work of a god in Fasa, and his level was not low. So he concentrated his consciousness highly. Facing an existence far superior to him, he might not even be able to use the wand of annihilation if he was careless for a moment. So, Lin Ke slightly triggered the breath in the wand of annihilation. Suddenly, the breath from the huge pressure of the deep ceiling got around him. This is the power from the master level, or the master of the Nasan version. As soon as this breath appeared, it caused the temple to tremble. The god of the sky is the master, and the king of the ancient mermaid kingdom, Tarzik, is also the master. What is the difference? One is the king of a small country of 50 square meters, with a population of 3, and a daily output consumption equal to the output consumption of a family of 3. One is the king of a cosmic country of 50 million square kilometers, mastering a variety of cutting-edge industrial chains and industrial systems, and can also carry out precision strikes over 5 million meters. They are both kings in essence, but the difference in essence is also irreparable. As soon as Lin Ke revealed the aura, he closed his eyes, crossed his arms, and whispered, "Come out and see me." 3 seconds later, Lin Ke opened his eyes. In front of him was a god named Phaser who raised his dharma to the left and said humbly and flatteringly, "Dear visitor from outside the domain, my master is looking forward to your arrival." The god Phaser was full of divine power, about 21st and 22nd level. He was surrounded by clouds and mist, but he was a female god. "Who are you? Who is your master?" Lin Ke asked with interest, his eyes unscrupulously scanning the god in front of him. "The law of clouds and mist? It's interesting. I have a friend who also has this law." He was thinking that he could take this god in front of him back as a gift to the Princess of Mist. Otherwise, it would be bad if he gave gifts to Emperor Wumian, but didn't give gifts to Princess Mist and the others. So, Emperor Wumian gave one, the 5-colored dragon mother gave one, and the Princess of Mist gave one. If all of these were given, wouldn't the other sons and daughters of the 5-colored dragon mother give gifts, favoring one over the other? Thinking of this, Lin Ke frowned slightly, and his breath couldn't help but fluctuate. The body of the god Phaser in front of him trembled slightly. Too terrible. Too horrible. This outsider in front of him is an existence that can fight against the great god of the sky. He actually neglected this person at the beginning because he didn't have divine power. Especially now. The outsider's eyes like a knife will sweep over him, as if scanning an object. Such fear and humiliation almost made him scream. I'm the goddess of clouds and mist, the humble servant of my lord, the god of the sky, and I greet you." The body of the goddess of clouds and mist trembled slightly, but it was because the divine power in her body was fluctuating and running wild. Why is this god shaking? Lin Ke looked at the goddess of clouds and mist in front of him inexplicably. If it was a god with a problem in IQ, he would not be able to send her away. He asked, "What does the sky want to ask me this time?" Although Lin Ke called the god of the sky, the goddess of clouds and mist did not feel surprised. Just like when he called other gods who were also servants of the god of sky, he also called them that. "I don't know either. I'm just responsible for taking you there," the goddess of clouds and mist said, waving her hand. A cloud of mist floated over and turned into a teleportation array. Spatial ability? This made Lin Ke more interested in the goddess of clouds and mists. While looking at the goddess of clouds and mists with interest, he stepped into the teleportation array. In this terrifying look of the goddess of clouds and mists, Lin Ke finally teleported away. The strongest among the visitors from outside the domain. Just the look can make me tremble. The goddess of clouds and mists patted her chest in fear, and the divine power that was about to run away in her body calmed down. "It seems that I need to let the believers pay attention. Don't resist the flame demon Buck when you meet him, otherwise if he drags me down, well, I can't say it so bluntly. Let me think." After thinking for a moment, the body of the goddess of clouds and mists turned into a white mist and merged into the surroundings. Then, a grand voice resounded in the hearts of the followers of the goddess of clouds and mist, "My people." Lin Ke stepped into the teleportation array and came to another palace. This palace was magnificent and looked grand and spacious. In the innermost part, there was a trapezoidal platform from top to bottom, and each layer had fixed seats. The seats contained some kind of obvious visions, such as fire, frost, clouds, and mist. Most of the gods of Phasa were like this, and the laws tended to be natural abilities. Many gods of Nasan have transcended the most basic natural abilities. For example, the Dark Girl seemed to be involved in the law of killing, and the Moon Goddess was even called the god of tranquility and darkness. Not to mention that there were gods such as the goddess of wealth and the noble gentleman below. But Phasa seemed to have a similar feeling here. Lin Ke looked at the highest level, where a god sat on the throne. The all-embracing sky god. The other god seats were empty, and only the sky god sat at the top. The god of the sky. It must be said that even from the knowledge that Lin Ke had gained from books, the god of the sky was definitely a very smart native of the secondary plane. He knew that there were many terrifying strong men outside his own plane, so he imprisoned the entire sky of Phasa, and no god could get out. In addition, he controlled all the ascending channels of the secondary plane, allowing magicians who pursued the truth to become divine magicians who pursued faith after level 10. He solidified the class closed the crystal wall, expanded his own power, and gathered the power of the entire plane to support him as a god. The path he wanted to take was the same as the original king of the gods. He didn't want mortal believers anymore. He wanted to be a god among gods. How much faith can ordinary mortal believers provide? If a god believes in a certain existence, the power of faith provided is definitely huge. Unfortunately, this plane has long been taken as a private property by the Emperor Wumian. Just like the marbles in the hands of a child, the marbles will never become glass bottles. You are immortal. At this time, the voice of the god of sky came from above, full of indifference and confidence. I'm immortal. Lin Ke smiled. But you have great power. Why don't you become a god? The voice of the god of sky had a hint of doubt, but it was more of a rhetorical question. Why not become a god? Lin Ke raised his eyebrows. Why should I become a god? Power, immortality, the world. You can get anything you want. The god of sky frowned insignificantly, and then let go after a while. The cloak behind him suddenly unfolded. In an instant, the steps of the throne hundreds of meters high flashed with light. Gods, here they come. Chapter 332, Wrath of the Gods. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The air was trembling, and one after another, the incarnations or real bodies of the gods appeared in the same place. They were majestic, and descended here with a naturally superior attitude. Here, as long as you are under their throne, they can look down, layer by layer, like a pyramid, and the god of the sky is at the top of the pyramid, overlooking everything, unchanged from ancient times. Lin Ke didn't know what the god of the sky was planning, but he just stood there with the wand of annihilation, smiling at the arrival of the gods. In fact, he was still a little panicked in his heart. After all, so many gods came. What if they all rushed over? He was not afraid of safety issues. After all, with the wand of annihilation, these were all phaser gods, just ordinary. But he didn't want to waste this opportunity. There were only 2 chances in the wand of annihilation. Although he could kill so many gods at once, Phaser would definitely fall into chaos in an instant. After killing these gods, the beneficiaries must be people from other forces in Nassim. Using one chance would not be worth the gain. Let's see the situation first. The god of the sky did not continue to speak, and Lin Ke was also at ease. They were relaxed, but the gods were not. On the surface, these gods looked solemn, but in fact, they had a lot of inner drama. Some were nervous, some were afraid, some were angry, and some were confused. They were all guessing the purpose of this call, and why the powerful visitor from outside the domain was here. Only a few smart gods, or gods who received the news in advance, were thinking about it. After a while, when the gods gathered, the god of the sky did not speak. The one who spoke was a god not far below him, with a crow pattern behind him. The god of crows. Today, my lord summoned you all here, mainly for one thing, which is to cease fire. The god of crows looked like an old man with a gloomy face, with his hands behind his back, but his voice was crisp and pleasant. After all, he was the spokesperson of the god of the sky, and his voice was the best among the gods, but he was a little ugly. Ceasefire? Ceasefire with the outsiders? God, my followers are almost gone. The gods couldn't hold back. Anyway, everyone present was an old acquaintance, except for the outsider. But the outsider in front of him was similar to the god of the sky, and there was no impact on his image. Chat. The gods discussed enthusiastically. Too miserable. They had such a miserable life. In just 1 year, the gods from Nassim were like locusts drilling into farmland and greedy dogs walking into manure pits. Wherever they passed, nothing was left. All the followers were killed if they were unwilling to submit. Only those who submitted to them and then went to mine farm or prey could survive. Their core followers were exhausted in this year. It's not that they didn't try to fight back. However, it was useless. Their levels were not much different. Except for the god of the sky who could kill with one blow. How could others do it? So, the god of Phaser descended, and if he couldn't defeat the strong men of Nassim, he would run away, because the resources or population in the original place belonged to Phaser anyway. After the god left, the strong men of Nassim came back again, and enslaved the Phaser people to work. After so many times, the gods of Phaser had no effective methods at all. Traps had been set up, and carpet cleaning had been carried out. But it was useless. How many gods are there in Phaser? How many strong men are there in Nassim? How many cities are there in Phaser? But the believers' calls for help cannot be ignored. And after a long time, the gods of Nassan will take revenge. For example, originally the believers were only allowed to mine, but the gods repeatedly obstructed them, and some strong men of Nassan directly carried out massacres. A newly promoted god about 5,000 years ago, before he could enjoy a few thousand years of life, 10,000 of his core believers were killed. The angry he went down to the world directly and killed 1 or 2 strong men from the Black Panther tribe of the far west countries who were weaker in strength. The Black Panther tribe only had a few legends in Nasang, and now that several level 16 and 17 beings had died, they were furious and massacred the city. All 196 cities under the command of the god Phaser were massacred, shocking the gods of Phaser. Although the message transmission in Phaser was slow, all the Phaser people who received the news were shocked. Of course, whether it was the gods or mortals, the reason for their shock was not the death of so many people. In other words, the main reason was not the death of people. After all, there were many divine punishment activities. What shocked them was the 196 cities, all of which were cities under the command of the god Phaser. In other words, the god, who was originally of medium divine power, fell below the freezing point in an instant and became an endangered divine power. The gods here are not as cunning as the gods of Nassan. He was bitten several times by the people when Nassan first came in, and now even the faith can only be maintained by some shallow believers. It can be said that, unless there is a miracle, that even the gods are surprised. He is finished. This is the current situation of the gods. Overwhelmed, incompetent and furious, powerless. And now, the god of the sky means that we can call a truce! Exclamation mark. The gods were excited all of a sudden, and the one who was sitting at the bottom and was made into an endangered god by the Black Panther tribe was so excited that his divine body almost collapsed. But at this moment, Lin Ke sneered, "Oh, truce. Why haven't I heard them say that?" The voice was not loud, but everyone present was a god, so they naturally heard it. So the place became so quiet that you could hear a pin drop again. And this time, the god of the sky spoke directly. "Strong outside the domain, if you join us, I will allow you to be on an equal footing with me." The voice of the god of the sky was flat and calm. "On an equal footing?" Exclamation mark. In the Phasal language, there is no such word as equal. The more accurate meaning should be, "I share everything I have with you." The god subconsciously cast envious glances at Lin Ke. Lin Ke almost laughed. How to say it, this temptation. In the future, he plans to buy Phaser from Wumian. The whole Phaser will be his. Now he is on equal footing with the god of the sky, which is equivalent to a farmer running to the pig pen and being on equal footing with his most majestic pig king. Forget it, you may not understand the class difference if I tell you about it. Lin Ke smiled and shook his head. A millionaire said to a billionaire, "If you are willing to stop your work, I will share my property with you." Sick. Let's put it this way, a ceasefire is impossible. Lin Ke chuckled. As soon as the words came out, the gods of Phaser were immediately angry. In fact, they didn't dare to be angry at first, but the god of the sky was the first to be angry. The god of sky frowned and asked in an extremely cold voice, do you want to continue the war with us?" Unexpectedly, Lin Ke smiled and shook his head again, glanced at the angry gods, and then walked lightly with the staff of annihilation, relaxed and easy, and said, "Our forces have never been enemies with you. Please vote for the monthly ticket at the beginning of the month." Chapter 333. Give me 2 years and drive them away. Isn't it? My people have only been in the northwest and have never fought against any Phasar people. Even if they killed any, they only killed some people from our side. Lin Ke paced slowly in front of the gods, his tone relaxed and calm. However, as he paced back and forth, an extremely huge power emanated from him. Just a trace of it made the gods feel overwhelmed and breathless. Vast, terrifying, and invincible. The gods did not dare to look up or peek, otherwise they would definitely find that even the god of the sky could not resist this aura. Triumph? How can there be a truce? We didn't fight at all. Lin Ke finally stood still and looked at the gods in front of him with a kind smile on his face. "Lord Dahuang, Mr. Dahuang, what do you mean?" The god of the sky did not speak. The god who spoke this time had a yellowish brown aura flowing behind him. Goddess of the Earth. Mr. Earth Goddess. Oh, by the way, your family, the group of cast mountain giants are living well under my protection. Well, as for your question, Lin Ke looked relaxed. I can cooperate with you and drive away those annoying guys within 2 years. 2 years? Why 2 years? Because the nobles' deliberation lasts for a total of 3 years, and now 1 year has passed. After the nobles' deliberation is over, they all have to return to Nassim. As for the gods, they almost discussed it like the aunt is buying vegetables in the market. 2 years. This is, let alone 2 years, they would accept 200 years. As gods, their lifespans have no end. As long as Phaser exists, they will exist. And those extraterritorial beings, scattered on the land of Phaser, cannot wipe out the entire Phaser in 2 years, which proves that the loss is controllable. Originally, they thought that these extraterritorial visitors would settle here for a long time, for hundreds of years, and then slowly erode Phaser until the twilight of the gods and the overthrow of the world. Now it seems that, if the strong man who also came from outside the domain can drive away all the outsiders within 2 years, then this is their chance. And the strong man from outside the domain has never had a conflict with them. Of course, although Buck, the fire demon, has his shadow behind him, it doesn't matter at all. After he leaves, Buck will be a grasshopper after autumn, and he won't be able to jump for a few days. The key now is, why is it 3 years instead of 3 minutes? And what price do we need to pay? The god of the sea, that is, the incarnation of the god of the sea, asked seriously. The main body of the god of the sea has the appearance of a shark head, and generally relies on creating fear to produce faith. But the incarnation looks like a normal Phaser. Price? Lin Ke seemed to fall into a state of contemplation immediately. This made the gods nervous, even the god of the sky. After all, this gathering of gods was convened by him, including calling Lin Ke to come. But the best case scenario he could think of was not that good. The best case scenario he could think of was to obtain the protection of the Lord of the Great Wilderness, so that a group of Phaser gods could continue to spread faith in a region of Phaser. After all, the gods can see clearly that, if given 100 years, the gods of Phaser will definitely fall, and all the Phaser people will become slaves of those people. It is the best case, that they can survive. The worst case is, that only the god of the sky will be left, and then he will share it with the god of the sky, or even give a little faith to let the god of the sky survive. So he will first say that they are equal, and then if Lin Ke disagrees, he will say it. After all, in his perception, the person in front of him can definitely kill him with one finger. Now, if Lin Ke says that it only takes 2 years to drive away those brutal foreign visitors, this is already the best expected situation. The god of the sky even wants to agree to it at the first time. However, he still has to listen to the price. As an ancient existence, he can keep his temper. I've thought about it. Lin Ke actually thought of the answer a long time ago. After all, this answer is his future expectation. The gods looked at Lin Ke intently. They have never been so focused in hundreds or thousands of years, for fear that they have missed some keywords in Lin Ke's words. After driving them away, the human world of Phaser will be ruled by the fire demon Buck for 100 years, and you are not allowed to interfere in any direct or indirect sense. Lin Ke smiled and said, this is my condition. Let the fire demon Buck rule for 100 years. Not to interfere in any direct or indirect sense. The gods immediately fell into thinking. This condition was a simple decision in the past. After all, beings who have been gods for more than hundreds of years will have some faith power in stock. It's okay to support 100 years, as long as they enter a dormant state. But now, this condition is a little difficult to agree to. The gods consume a lot. Whether it is the first wave of attacks when Nassim just came in, or the current situation of being tortured for a year, the gods' faith power has been greatly consumed. Those with medium or higher divine power are okay, but I'm afraid of those below the medium divine power. Even if Buck wipes out the entire temple of Phaser within the 100 years, the gods can rule Phaser again after the end of the 100 years. The gods with medium and higher divine power are already very tempted, but some low level and endangered divine power are very hesitant. They fell asleep, and they slept forever. But were they the ones who made the decision? Lord of the Great Wilderness. The god of the sky spoke, and the gods fell silent. How is it, god of the sky? Lin Ke smiled. He bypassed the gods and asked the god of the sky directly, making it clear that other gods were not taken seriously. Of course, the other gods took it calmly and didn't think there was anything wrong. Then, Lord of the Great Wilderness, what about you? The god of the sky, who was shining with eyes that reflected the sun and the moon, stared at Lin Ke with a piercing gaze. Lin Ke had said so much just now, but he didn't say what position he was in. Although Lin Ke didn't do anything excessive this year, it was only a year. Many gods can endure for thousands of years to plan one thing, let alone a large secondary plane. Me. If I want, you will all die. Lin Ke grinned, revealing a kind smile, and at the same time, triggered a little breath in the Staff of Annihilation. Wow, it was as if the sound of waves rang in the temple, and an extremely terrifying breath filled the entire temple. The gods were horrified, and felt as if they had become mortals, being strangled by the high gods. Even the Beast King of Nasan couldn't resist, let alone a group of gods from the secondary planes. Even the Sky God was once again amazed by this power. However, it was not just that. Let me show you the red deep in my heart. Chapter 334 The Gods Surrender. After saying this, Lin Ke took advantage of the situation and guided out his vision. In the abyss, so many legends and gods of Nasan were impressed by his vision. Even the black and white of Emperor Wumian almost got fooled. In order to enhance his strongest personality, Lin Ke must show more at this time. The gods felt a sense of oppression and subconsciously released their visions. Suddenly, a variety of magnificent visions appeared in the temple, and all the visions appeared under the sky. The endless land, the burning flames, the turbulent ocean. One by one, the gods released their law visions without reservation. In their view, visions completely put aside the strength factor and are only related to the understanding of the law or the rank of the law itself. Even if Lin Ke is a strong man with the strength of the god of the sky, he may not be able to defeat them. However, this is destined to be an unforgettable day for the gods of Phasa. On this day, they saw what is an extremely strong belief. The land, mountains, lakes, oceans, forests, swamps. The visions of the gods of Phasa pressed towards Lin Ke under the tolerance and guidance of the sky. Lin Ke did not make any extra moves, but just looked at the direction of the gods firmly, and a red color rushed over. In just a moment, the sky and the visions collapsed. Even if Lin Ke had not retracted quickly, those visions would probably be dyed red. What is that? This is impossible. Horrible. Too terrifying. The gods were shocked, and they were frightened by Lin Ke's visions. Haha, a group of interesting little guys. If you have thought about it, send someone to sign the law contract. Lin Ke smiled softly, threw down a law contract, and the magic in the blank space on it made the contract sign tens of thousands of names, and then said, "Little Yunwu, send me back." The goddess of Yunwu, who was almost at the bottom of the pyramid of the throne, stood up in a daze, and then subconsciously summoned a magic circle under Lin Ke's feet. After the summoning, he remembered that he was not under Lin Ke's command, so he looked up with some fear, but the sky god's face was gloomy at this time, and he didn't care about him at all. Lin Ke stepped into the magic circle, turned his head, and looked at the gods, and sneered, "I'm a peace-loving person, but the premise is that others are also peaceful to me, otherwise." After that, Lin Ke's figure disappeared. After Lin Ke left, the crow god flew down and picked up the contract on the ground. There was no need for him to read it. The gods had already scanned the contract with their divine thoughts. The crow god picked up the contract and then sent it to the sky god and retreated to his seat again. The sky god looked at the contract in his hand with a change of expression and finally used his divine power to sign two words in the blank space, sky. Then, the sky god threw the contract down, snorted coldly, and disappeared on the spot. The earth goddess, the fire god, and the ocean god on the second floor did not reach out and disappeared one by one after signing with divine power. The contract was passed down layer by layer, and the powerful and medium-powered gods signed without hesitation. Finally, it was the turn of the gods at the bottom. The gods at the bottom had no choice at all. The sky god had signed it, so would they sign it? Not. Then don't come here to make a fuss and fall when it's time. Finally, the gods left, and the contract was passed to the crow god. The crow god held the contract and sat in his original position. A voice sounded in his mind. Go see the Lord of the Great Wilderness and let him remember his promise. Otherwise we would rather destroy Phaser and perish together. The voice of the Sky God. Speaking of perish together, the Sky God was not firm and sonorous, but full of fatigue. Yes, my lord. The Crow God raised his Dharma medium to the left to show respect. Then he turned into a crow and tore through space and left. Only the empty temple and the throne were left, as if it had never changed, but also as if it was changing all the time. Lin Ke walked out of the jungle again, searched for a while, and found Nyx eating grass all over the ground. Nyx, how is it? How many plants have you recorded? Lin Ke leaned over and asked. Nyx was tasting a bright mushroom growing on a small bush. He ate the mushroom in one bite, and was chewing it. When he heard Lin Ke's voice, he turned his head, swallowed the mushroom, and prepared to speak. The next moment, Nyx bent over and coughed violently, holding on to the tree next to him, sticking out his tongue, and staring out his eyes, as if he was going to cough out even his internal organs. And his eyes also showed signs of turning white. But in just a few seconds, Nyx's originally white fur suddenly changed and turned black. Nyx's body was covered with furry black hair, and he stopped coughing. He stood up, wiped his mouth, and said, "This poisonous mushroom is strong. Let's call it the coughing mushroom." Nyx took out a notebook and wrote it down, and by the way, he pulled out another coughing mushroom and put it into the space ring. "You've worked hard, Nyx." Although he had seen it before, Lin Ke still respected this behavior of Shannon tasting hundreds of herbs. Followers are not slaves. Even if they are followers who will never betray, Lin Ke will give them great respect. "It's okay, Mr. Lin Ke, this is my duty." After so many years, Nyx has become accustomed to calling Mr. Lin Ke, and Lin Ke is also used to it. "Well, I came to ask you, how is the medical system being built?" The content of Lin Ke's question this time is the top priority. Or rather, it is the top priority for Buck to rule Phaser. In the past, what should mortals do when they are sick? There are no witch doctors, or witch doctors, passed down from ancient times here. No matter which mortal is, if they are sick, they need to seek help from the school, sect or temple, or one or two small magics, or some holy water stained with the power of faith or even divine power, can make some of the mortal's illnesses disappear without a trace. This is also the source of many shallow believers of the gods. If Buck can establish a medical system so that mortals, even wizards, will subconsciously go to the hospital instead of the temple when they are sick or injured, then the power of faith of the gods will probably be lost in a large part. After all, Lin Ke has calculated that the majority of the gods' faith is never from fanatics or even saints, but from shallow believers. Once the shallow believers are gone, the gods will be close to death. Therefore, the reform of the medical system is a top priority. I have been training doctors and nurses. 342 kinds of medicines have been recorded, including 220 herbs, 112 animal medicines, and 10 mineral medicines. The specific combination depends on the case. Nyx opened the book in his hand and recounted his achievements. "I went out for dinner today. It was so crowded." Chapter 335, Phaser Medical System. As for doctors, we have only trained 93 doctors and 294 nurses. There is no way. Doctors need to learn too much knowledge. Nyx introduced the situation of his construction of the medical system with a sad face. "Good, very good." Lin Ke patted Nyx on the shoulder and said, "If you want, do you want more help? I think Earl Tulip and Lin Ke may be able to provide you with some help." Nyx nodded, shook his head, and said, "Earl Tulip seems to like flowers more, and His Highness Lin Ke is very good at promoting the growth of plants. However, there are still many unknown plants in the wild, and there may even be endangered plants. Special techniques are needed to collect them. His Highness Lin Ke and Earl Tulip are of noble status." Nyx's meaning is very clear. He looks for herbs one by one all over the world. In addition to herbs, there are also various minerals, monsters, etc., all with various effects and characteristics. He needs to taste them one by one and then record them in a book. Fortunately, his original herb encyclopedia has become plant encyclopedia, a level 10 magic item. As long as the plants are recorded, the book will automatically match the corresponding content, classify them into the corresponding categories, and form the images and smells input by Nyx, so that readers can be immersed in the scene. Is that so? Then why don't you consider taking in a few disciples? Lin Ke laughed. Wouldn't it be better to take in disciples and let them do these things? In his previous life, most of the science and engineering graduate students he knew were slaves working for their mentors. It was called training. Some level 4 or 5 professionals can take in disciples, not to mention Nyx, who has been promoted to level 11, doctor, and poison master. Take in disciples? Nyx was stunned, and then said, but my lifespan has been extended, there is no need. At this point, Nyx's eyes showed a sudden realization. Most people who take in disciples are thinking about inheritance, passing on their own mantle, because lifespan is limited. But Nyx has not reached the state of old age so far, so he has never considered it. And he has always had his own things to do, which are fulfilling and happy, beautiful, and full of hope, so he has never thought about taking in disciples. Today, Lin Ke inspired him, and he realized it. Disciples, to a certain extent, are equal to labor. The kind that is free. Even if you meet a disciple like Lin Ke, you may be promoted. Why not take in a disciple of Phaser? Lin Ke said directly, but the talent is uncertain, and the achievements in the future will be very low. Nyx thought about it, and shook his head. Forget it, Mr. Lin Ke, I will still take in another disciple in Dahuang City. In fact, there are some pretty good doctors in the hospital. Okay. Lin Ke nodded slightly, pulled away the fallen leaves beside the tree roots, and pulled Nyx IE to sit down on the spot. However, your medical system is really important. He was about to say a few key points to Nyx IE. After all, there was a live broadcast, so he couldn't say too much. However, just as he was about to continue, Lin Ke sensed something and stood up. Not far away, a space crack appeared on the tree, and the figure of the crow god appeared. He held the law contract in his hand, and floated down slowly. He tilted his Dharma medium to the left and said, Honorable Lord of the Great Wilderness, I come on behalf of the gods, to sign a contract with you. Oh, you're here, so soon. Lin Ke got up from the ground, walked over easily, took the law contract, and glanced at it casually. The law contract mainly consists of 3 parts, the 2 parties who signed it, and the content of the contract. The main content of this law contract is that the gods will submit to Lin Ke to a limited extent within these 2 years, and help Lin Ke do things. After 2 years, Lin Ke promised to bring all the people of Nasan back. In exchange, Buck could not interfere with anything he did in the human world. If one party violates this kind of law contract, he will receive the backlash of the power of the law, which will lead to demotion at the least and direct destruction of the soul at the worst. So generally speaking, no one will violate the law contract. After casually looking at the contract, Lin Ke used the power of a professional to sign his name in another blank space of the law contract. The god of crows watched Lin Ke sign it, and then humbly bowed before leaving. Lin Ke accepted the law contract, looked at Nyx, and said with a smile, look, here comes something to help us build a medical system. On the surface, it is about building a medical system, but in fact, it is about overthrowing the belief system of the gods. When everyone finds out that, if they want to survive from injuries and illnesses, they don't ask the gods but doctors, their beliefs will change. Nyx looked at the law contract in Lin Ke's hand blankly, a little unresponsive. The one who just came over was the god of Phaser, right? It seems that his young master has done something big again. An unexpected gain. Lin Ke smiled and continued to talk to Nyx about the medical system. After talking for a while, and confirming the direction, he finally went back. Nyx continued to taste herbs near the camp. After a few months, Buck's vanity party became more and more intense, and the flames of Phaser's reform almost swept the entire continent. Countless mortals and countless wild mages knew about this organization that wanted to save Phaser, and joined it one after another. Taverns and shadows are where the vanity party appears. The lower and more hidden places are, the more vanity party gathers. Some small schools and sects, slaves and knights also joined in. Lin Ke did not expect that the Vanai party would eventually join those who were defined as villains, thieves, beggars, etc. by orthodox magicians. These so-called low-level beings, under the call of the Vanai party, burst out with amazing energy. Collecting and transmitting information, assassination, poisoning, inciting mutiny, setting fires everywhere. They did everything that mortals could do. As time went on, because of the smooth flow of information, the Vanai Party magic training camp and the Flame Demon Knights established by Lin Ke became stronger and stronger, becoming a legion level. Buck also announced the policy of freedom of belief at a certain time. Of course, on the surface, it was called like this, but in fact, all temples and temple personnel were registered. Originally, the sects and temples would not agree, but their own gods agreed. As a result, Buck's high-end combat power became more and more, no matter if they were in harmony or insincerely obeyed. But at least on the surface, all the gods were listening to Lin Ke's arrangements, and so were the temples. As a result, the number of cities under Buck's command surged to more than 300. However, today, Lin Ke sensed trouble. So, taking advantage of the night, his real body came to the city in the south, and the Gula people left a mirror image clone. The reason was that they encountered a city occupied by the Everfrozen Council. Chapter 336 Delta Bears and the Newspaper Company. In the Tower of Phaser, Lin Ke was wearing a coat, and it was snowy outside. It was winter now, and the footprints of the goddess of frost and snowflakes had traveled all over Phaser. There was no difference between north and south, and no difference between east and west. Even in the far south, there was snow, and the 4 seasons were distinct. The goddess of frost and snowflakes walked slowly over and over again throughout Phaser, leaving traces of winter. The only place the gods had never set foot in was the ocean, because there was no intelligent life there, and there were only non-intelligent life species in the ocean of Phaser. So, what you met was the Delta Bearman mentioned by the Lord of the Great Wilderness? Lin Ke stood in front of the round table, frowning. The Everfrozen Council is composed of 5 major tribes: humans, Highland Dwarves, Ice Crystal Giant Deer, Frost Wolves, and Conifer tribes. But in addition to these 5 major races, there are many powerful races, such as the Delta Bearman. It is said that the Delta Bearman also competed for a seat in one of the 5 major councillors at a certain time, but failed in the second term. And the reason for the failure of the competition was not the power factor, but the wisdom factor. But this also proves that the Delta Bear clan is gifted with strength. Yes, Buck is the same. A middle-level cadre of the Vanai party who was in charge of the southward movement stood up and reported, according to the news, there are 15 cities under the control of the Delta Bear clan. We encountered them in one of them, and a fierce encounter broke out. More than 100 Vanai party members present listened carefully to the report, and were also thinking about countermeasures. Can't the Minotaur warriors fight against it? Someone asked. No. The person reporting shook his head. The power of the Minotaur warriors is also not comparable to that of the Delta Bear clan. The Minotaur warriors can't beat them either. Lin Ke had formed an alliance with the Minotaur warriors before coming in. There were more than 400 beings from level 16 to star level there, which basically could be regarded as the top leaders of the Minotaur race of the Holy Life Alliance. Lin Ke also promised them with his own identity that, even if all the forces of Nasan were eliminated, a certain position would be left for the Minotaur clan. Of course, Lin Ke also knew that this was impossible. In 2 years, it was already very good to occupy 50% of the cities in the entire Phaser continent, and it was difficult to occupy all of them. If there was no deadline, Lin Ke would choose to let Buck take steady steps. Take down one city after another, digest them completely, and then start the second wave. The second wave digested the third wave. But now there is a time limit. Lin Ke can only occupy as many cities as possible, and let Ms. Yang and the others slowly integrate them after they leave. What does the Lord of the Great Wilderness say? Buck asked in a deep voice. The Lord of the Great Wilderness is fighting against the Ice Crystal Giant Deer and the alien visitors from the Ocean of Stars and Waves. Anda, who was not far away, replied. In addition, the lizardmen of the far west countries requested an alliance. It is said that they are familiar with the Lord of the Great Wilderness. Lizardmen? Lin Ke remembered that his familiarity with the lizardmen was limited to a sentence before he came in. At that time, the lizardman leader said that he had a talent for comprehending the law of killing. And then that was it. What the hell is familiarity? What does the Lord of the Great Wilderness say? Lin Ke still asked the Lord of the Great Wilderness for his opinion, acting like a leader who is good at considering the opinions of allies. We have passed the message. In addition, the Lord of the Great Wilderness asked us to set up a newspaper. Ms. Yang is responsible for many things now, and fatigue overflowed from the corners of her eyes. But she was still a little hesitant when she said newspaper buck is homogeneous. I wonder if this thing called a newspaper should appear. She explained the newspaper without waiting for everyone to ask. After the explanation, everyone was a little puzzled, and only a few old magicians showed a thoughtful look. This is a shortcoming of Lin Ke's current leadership team. He has the courage to promote and appoint talents, and will not stick to age and level. He pays more attention to experience and talent. It's not that he has prejudices against older magicians. It's really that many older magicians have formed a rigid mindset and are not as malleable as young people. But the disadvantage of being young is that you don't have enough experience, so you don't really understand the killer weapon that controls thought and culture like newspapers. But the literacy rate of our FASA people is very low, and his teacher frowned, and it is really difficult to spread. The high-level officials in those cities are not very friendly to me. This can also be solved, but can our content output keep up? The legendary great magician Daisha is also considering countermeasures. He was originally a captive of the magic training camp, but was later completely convinced by Lin Ke. Now under Lin Ke's guidance, he has broken through to the 10th level legendary magician. In terms of content, the Lord of the Great Wilderness said that he can provide us. But this is exactly what I'm worried about. As soon as Ms. Yang said this, everyone understood it immediately. Although they are now allies with the Lord of the Great Wilderness, as an outsider, there has always been endless controversy within the Fanai party. Some people think that there are many outsiders, some of whom are good and some are bad, such as the Lord of the Great Wilderness is a friendly group. Others think that all outsiders are bad, but they just don't show it. Anyway, no one thinks that outsiders are purely good. After all, which good person will open a big hole in your sky before coming? Of course, their leader, Buk Tangxi, also pointed out that the Lord of the Great Wilderness must have his own purpose, and all the visitors from outside the domain have their own purpose. It's just that the means they use to achieve their goals are different. One side is violent suppression and bloody conflicts, and the other side is friendly exchanges and equal trade. This is the difference. But once it comes to ideology and culture, and to the newspaper, everyone is undecided. In the end, the discussion gradually subsided, and all eyes were cast on Lin Ke. Lin Ke pondered for a moment and said, the newspaper must be opened. But how to open it, what to open it with, and what content to produce, are what we have to determine. Lin Ke pretended to think about it, and then pointed to Daisha. Daisha Tangxi, you are responsible for the flow of the newspaper, right? Me. Daisha was stunned. Such a major event related to ideology is controlled by him? You must know that the current Fanai party can be united, not by interests, but by the flames, ignited by the flame demon King Buk, the kind of fire, to resist oppression and drive away invaders. Only under the guidance of this kind of people with the same aspirations, can the Fanai party be firmly united. Newspapers, spreading ideas, this is a big deal. Even if Buk comes to control it personally, it's normal. Not only Daisha, but everyone else was a little surprised. Only Ender, Baiguang and others showed conviction. Lin Ke smiled and said, since you have joined the Fanai party, we are of the same nature. Does it matter who is in charge? As long as they are our compatriots, as long as they want to be liberated from the oppression of the three mountains of sects, gods and foreign visitors, does it matter who it is? Daisha is a wind magician with fast speed, which is suitable for controlling the overall situation of the newspaper. I trust our homogeneity. Homogeneity. The same ambition. This is the courage and pattern of Buk, the king of the flame demon. Hearing this, Daisha, a white-bearded old man who is hundreds of years old, couldn't help but redden his eyes. Chapter 337. Fasa People's Newspaper. This is homogeneity. Having the same aspirations and walking on the same path will naturally generate a certain degree of trust. The sound of homogeneity directly moved all the members of the Fanai party, including Daisha, with different expressions. Some people's eyes were red, some people were so excited that their lips were tightly pursed, and some young people even had tears in their eyes. Everyone, I hope you know that we are not a school, nor a sect, nor a temple. Lin Ke's voice became gentle and firm. We want to liberate all of Fasa. We are born free. Who dares to be high above us? We are born free. Who dares to be high above us? Everyone was shocked when they heard this. 30 years in the east, 30 years in the west. The first to become a god can lead the others to run towards the path of the gods together. The first god leads the later gods, and they run towards the path of the gods together. So, everyone, have more trust in your own kind. This is just the beginning. Be more sincere. Lin Ke smiled and looked at Daisha. Newspaper. The first president of our FASA newspaper is you. Then he immediately said, now, think of a name for our newspaper. Everyone is not good at other things, but this is good. I think since this meeting was opened because of the Delta Bear people in the south, the Delta Bear people belong to the ever frozen court of that plane. Why don't we call our newspaper the Frozen Throne? The sinister man pondered for a moment and spoke first. The crazy woman next to him glanced at him coldly, or name it after you. As everyone knows, the sinister man is good at ice magic. Everyone laughed, and then the crazy woman looked at Lin Ke in admiration. I suggest that it be called the Fire Demon King newspaper. Everyone laughed again. As we all know, the crazy woman worships Buck. I suggest calling it the Night's newspaper. Why not call it the Wind newspaper? My opinion is that it's not as good as the Waterflow newspaper. Everyone was competing to speak, fearing that they would miss a name, but those names were somewhat related to their characteristics. For example, Daisha thought that the Wind newspaper sounded good, implying that newspapers were like the wind blowing all over FASA, and the little Night Baiguan thought that the Night's newspaper sounded good. Of course, it was Lin Ke who made the final decision. Seeing that everyone was in high spirits, Lin Ke smiled and said, why not call it the FASA Citizens newspaper? FASA citizens. Whether it is a knight or a wind magician, they are all FASA citizens. As soon as Lin Ke said this, everyone felt the strong atmosphere of the Vanai party. Yes, that's right. This is the name they should take. In addition, we have to prepare another thing, to open a hospital in each city, such as the Blue Light Sky City First Citizen Hospital, etc. Lin Ke began to arrange other things. Everyone also began to record on as and paper, and then discuss solutions. This even made Lin Ke feel a long-lost sense of homogeneity. The Delta Bear people problem, the famine problem of the people in the north, the rebellion problem in a certain city, the problem of the first batch of staff of the newspaper. Various problems were discussed, and then solved one by one. Of course, the problem of the newspaper was the top priority. The people of FASA who were addicted to the belief in gods needed to be awakened. How to awaken? Not roaring and wailing. It is thought, culture and enlightenment. Let me write the first issue. Lin Ke pondered. Specifically, we will send specific messengers to be responsible for the dissemination of content. The newspaper will be published in the form of a book, and the dissemination of content will mainly focus on explanation. Just like NASA. Lin Ke shops are all over the kingdom of Gila. Not only newsstands, but also bulletin offices have been set up. What is the purpose? It is to make people who cannot understand the common language of NASA, such as farmers, civilians, beggars, etc., understand it. Of course, later, some noble children also came back to listen. When hearing passionate things, nobles will high-five with beggars and praise them. When hearing sad things, the heartless rich will cry. It's the same in FASA. Of course, after 3 years, maybe we can consider introducing radios. Although radios are no longer useful in NASA. After all, there are live broadcasts. But radios can be used. FASA currently has no such mines as the Image Stone. Lin Ke alone can't supply the entire FASA live broadcast. But radios can be used. Radios can even be produced directly in FASA. However, we have to do it step by step. A few days later, 3 shops suddenly stood up in the downtown area of the city under the command of the Vanai party. Newsstand, announcement office, lottery office. According to the original ratio, the lottery office gathers money, the newsstand sells paper and books, and the announcement office is used to announce laws, matters and storytelling. As soon as it opened, it attracted a lot of onlookers. Homogeneity, what are you selling? A FASA aunt came to the front of the newsstand, and Latitude squeezed through the crowd with her bucket waist, and came to the front. She originally thought that there was a bargain to be had, but who knew that it was actually a place to sell things. In front of the auntie, there were 3 large windows, which were labeled as newsstand, notice office, and lottery office. The auntie couldn't read either, but intuitively, the wild party would never cheat ordinary people like them. At this time, people were coming and going in the newsstand, but everyone went in and out. After all, most people couldn't read, and they just came out after reading something new. "Hello, auntie, we sell books here." The clerk was a young man with a tired smile on his face. The clerk had to maintain order and introduce things to everyone, which was really tiring. Fortunately, there were knights from the wild party watching nearby, so there was no theft. Books. The auntie lost interest as soon as she heard it. Books were something that her whole family couldn't read, and it was more cost effective to buy a cart of berries than to buy a book. However, at this moment, the person standing at the notice office spoke. There stood a man who looked like a magician, holding a thin book in his hand, which read New Phaser Youth. He turned to the first page and read, "A warning to all the young people, old people and teenagers of the new generation of Phaser. Phaser is currently in a great change unprecedented in ancient and modern times. Now I, the Fire Demon King Buck, want to reform and strengthen the country." Fire Demon King Buck? Exclamation mark. This man is the Fire Demon King Buck? Exclamation mark. The aunt was so scared that she almost fell down when she heard it, but she realized in an instant that the man in front of her was reading, not that he was the Fire Demon King Buck. However, everyone, including the aunt, was still attracted. Buck, as the actual controller of hundreds of cities, what does he want to say? Everyone listened to the magician-like man reading, finishing the first volume A Warning to New Youth, and then reading the second volume Learn from the Skills of the Barbarians to Control the Barbarians. Regardless of the old, the young, or the young, they were all attracted at this time, and even more and more people were attracted. It even caused a situation where thousands of people emptied the streets, and people from several nearby streets gathered here. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 338, Innovate and Reform, Sacrifice Yourself and Start a New Journey. Why did this result happen? Lin Ke actually expected it. His experience did not come from the era when he traveled through, but from an era before. Men of that era did not eat peaches, did not have the second dimension, and were not oppressed by the exam-oriented education. They were full of blood, upright, and courageous. Women of that era did not have 360 Valentine's days a year, did not have lipstick and the first cup of milk tea in winter, did not worship money and rural women's boxing. They could hold up half the sky, worry about the country and the people, and women were as good as men. Why is this so? Because a group of pioneers awakened the people's wisdom. Just like a little flame in the twilight forest, it may eventually burn the entire piece of rotten and dead wood. However, to awaken this kind of heart fire, it takes the joint efforts of countless fires. The area of the vast continent is more than 109.6 million square kilometers. Although there are magic and gods, it is not so easy to spread the news. Fortunately, after Lin Ke's initial efforts, he has gathered a group of like-minded people. Now, these fires are scattered like stars in the sky, changing others bit by bit. Perhaps in less than 100 years, Fasa will be full of Azan red flags. This is the case in Blue Sky City at this time. At the notice office, a magic apprentice is reading the first issue of New Fasa Youth. The first volume, A Warning to New Youth, has been read. The second volume, Learn from the Barbarians to Control the Barbarians, has been read. Now, he began to read the third volume, discussing the necessity of sports. What is sports? Sports are the essence of a person. The magician's body is so weak that he can be killed with just a light knife. On the other hand, the visitors from outside the domain are agile. The magic apprentice read with ups and downs and emotions, which made people feel the same, and immersed in it immediately. So more and more people came to the door of the store, and the voices of the magic apprentices became louder and louder. Not far in front of the magic apprentice, the knights in armor could easily maintain order. Because the closer the people are to the inside, the more carefully they listen, and the less noise they make. There are even some wind magicians who use flying magic to stay in the air, just to listen more carefully and clearly. Some people climbed up some pillars of the nearby phaser towers and lay down, listening attentively. The magic apprentice who was reading aloud was actually very nervous at first. After all, he was just an apprentice, not even a first level magician. As far as he knew, levitation was only available to 5th level magicians, and flying required 7th level magicians. And now, there were a lot of flying around. However, when he was immersed in reading, he didn't care about other opinions at all. Sports are so important. Yes. Although smart magicians always set up various protections for themselves. But there are always exceptions. And what about knights or warriors? Although they are not as powerful as magicians, they are at least very alert. However, in discussing the necessity of sports, Lord Buck, the king of the fire demon, also proposed, compared with the warrior knights of Nassang, the warrior knights of Phaser are like a 3-year-old child with congenital mental retardation and acquired physical brain contusion and concussion, compared with the legendary all-round wizard who has lived for 900 years. There is no comparison at all. So it is closely related to the title of the previous article. Learn from the barbarians to defeat them. Go and learn. Learn how others become stronger. Learn how others become real warriors and knights. Learn for the future of Phaser. For the future of Phaser people. 100 people, 1000 people, 10,000 people, 10 million people. Beg, rob, steal, trade, inquire. Use all kinds of methods. When the magic apprentice read this, his eyes immediately turned red when he saw the next sentence. In 30 days, I will initiate a new reform. Since ancient times, reforms have always involved bloodshed and sacrifice. Now Phaser is in danger, and we will go against the current, starting with our generation. When the magic apprentice read the last few words, he almost roared, sonorous and powerful. The audience cheered one by one. From my generation. From my generation. I will follow Lord Buck. He is our future. Farce is in danger. We can't continue to be indifferent. Bleeding and sacrificing is our duty. The blue light sky city has the most mortals and the atmosphere is the most intense. At this time, everyone is in tears and shouting. The magicians in the sky are rioting with magic power, and they are about to explode. So exciting. So excited. In the past year or so, many fast people are actually confused. Not to mention other places, even in Blue Light Sky City, there are many people who don't know Buck's mind. But it can be expected that today's cultural communication will help many confused people find their direction. Originally oppressed by the so-called gods, magicians, mortals, this closed class for countless years, coupled with the invasion of foreign visitors, many fast people have actually become numb. However, when new fast youth came out at this time, everyone suddenly felt that their souls were injected with new motivation and vitality. The magic apprentice was so excited by the atmosphere that his eyes were blurred. He wiped them quickly and turned to the next page. Then he said to everyone, homogeneous people, be quiet. I will continue to read the next article. Although the voice was not loud, everyone still tried their best to calm down and suppress their excitement. Under the attention of everyone, the magic apprentice cleared his throat and continued to read. This article is called Innovation and Reform. There is only one purpose, that is, to liberate all Phaser. The magic apprentice read one by one. The more he read, the more he admired Buck in his heart. Phaser is in turmoil today. Only by using thunder and lightning to clear everything under the sky can we, the Phaser people, usher in a new monument. Now promulgate the reform guidelines. 1. Each city shall establish a city hall and cancel the jurisdiction of schools, sects and temples. Innovation and reform. What does it mean? Open up a new world and a new Phaser reform. Establish a city hall and cancel the jurisdiction, leadership and other powers of all schools, sects and temples. Open a school for the people. Recruit various teachers. Teach various knowledge, skills, crafts, including magic. Found the fast people daily to encourage the publication of various speeches. Create the first volunteer knight army of Farce and the first volunteer magic army of Farce. Set up a number of legions under them and recruit people of the same quality as Farce. In addition to the promulgation of various policies, when the magic apprentices finished reading, everyone was silent. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that under these measures, all cities under the command of the Vanai party will usher in a brand new look. While everyone was thinking about it, an aunt standing in the front row asked the magic apprentice weakly, "Master Magician, oh no, magician of the same quality, may I ask this, what are the requirements for recruiting night squires?" Chapter 339, Scream from the Abyss. Night Squire? No, we in the Farseer Wild Party are recruiting soldiers. To be more precise, we want mortals, wild mages, knights, warriors, and magicians. The magic apprentice came back to his senses and answered the aunt with a smile. The aunt nodded thoughtfully. Everyone's thoughts were also brought back by the aunt's words. Join the army? Yes. Join the army. Whether it's men or women, they are all full of fighting spirit. So what if they join the army? Women's abilities are no less than men's. Look, an aunt wants to join the army. Mr. Magician, where can I join the army? I want to protect my home. Defend Farseer. Defend Farseer. The crowd was crowded, and everyone asked one by one, making the magic apprentice a little overwhelmed. Everyone, please be quiet. At this moment, a magician who was hovering in the sky shouted with a megaphone, "There is a special military recruitment office in the city hall. You can go there to ask." A white-bearded magician wearing a blue magician robe landed and said in a loud voice, "I'm Daisha, the current president of the People of Phaser newspaper. The president of the People of Phaser newspaper. The legendary magician Daisha." The crowd was obviously quiet. Daisha used to be very famous in several nearby cities. He was famous for being stubborn, arrogant, and indifferent. But now, haha, this homogeneous person, if you want to join the army, you must do it as soon as possible. Otherwise you will have to wait in a long line to test your talent. Daisha smiled and came to the aunt to ask the question at the beginning. But the aunt shook her head. "I asked for my son. He has always wanted to stand out. I have never given him a chance. I think it is too dangerous. But now, I think, it is better to die on the way, to save our phaser than to die at home inexplicably." The aunt wiped her tears as she spoke. After hearing the aunt's brief words, Daisha stood in awe. "Homogeneity. We Fanai party will do our best to protect every compatriot. Even if we die, we must die with honor." Okay. The aunt also made up her mind at this time. Not only the aunt. Many people who originally wanted their children to live a peaceful life were shaken because of the visitors from outside the domain. When Lin Ke and the others came in, there was a lot of noise. Many people felt that the sky was about to fall, and they could only feel extremely desperate. But now, at least they are full of hope. However, everyone looked at the magic apprentice at the door of the store again, and someone asked cautiously, "This newspaper, is there any more in the back?" The magic apprentice was originally looking at Daisha excitedly. You know, Daisha is a legendary magician, a powerful existence of level 10. But when he was reminded, he came back to his senses, raised the new phaser youth in his hand, and said, "Yes. Because it is the first issue, there is a supplement." The magic apprentice turned to the supplement, and there were a few phaser common words written on it. The Abyss Scream. The pupils of the magic apprentice shrank when he saw these 4 words. Abyss. These 2 words made him feel an extremely strong despair. In the face of this despair, it seemed as if the sun's rays were all absorbed, and people could only fall into darkness endlessly. The 2 words shout made the magic apprentice feel a strong sense of powerlessness. In this dark fall, there was no power to resist at all. He could only watch himself fall into the abyss step by step. However, at this moment, a line of words appeared below. Butlagliness, written. These words were written in deep red, as if blood. And it was these words that made the magic apprentice suddenly feel a glimmer of bright red and weak hope. Bloody, weak but strong hope. The magic apprentice took a deep breath and exhaled slowly, feeling that his soul was baptized. He didn't know that this was a calligrapher profession developed by Lin Ke, and now it has been integrated into artist, which has made a qualitative leap. Now, even copying his notes will be affected. But this time, the influence exerted by Lin Ke is positive, which can make people firm in their inner choices. This is what happened to the magic apprentice. When he withdrew his gaze, his soul was baptized. So he turned to the first page of Scream from the Abyss, and the title on it was 4 words. Diary of a Madman. Diary of a Madman. The magic apprentice didn't know what it meant. Why did he say madman? The audience was also curious, so they listened carefully. Tonight, the moonlight is very good. I haven't seen him for more than 30 years. I saw him today, and I feel very refreshed. I realize that the past 30 years were all a daze, but I must be very careful. Otherwise, why did the dog of the Zao family look at me twice? The magic apprentice read on, and it was okay at the beginning, but the more he read, the more frightened he became. This diary of madman actually narrated the story of madman in the first person. This madman was afraid of everyone's eyes, and always felt that people wanted to harm him and want to eat him. The doctor treated him and asked him to rest, so he thought that he was fattening him up so that others could eat more meat. The madman remembered that his elder brother had told him about eating children and sleeping on skin and eating flesh. Then he remembered that when his sister died, his elder brother advised his mother not to cry, so he thought that his sister was eaten by his elder brother. Very depressing, very crazy. The magic apprentice felt choked up when he read this, and it became more and more depressing later. The more the madman resisted cannibalism, the more he was considered a madman. When he was completely disappointed with changing the surrounding environment, he was cured. Eating people, eating people, eating people. Why do you keep writing about eating people? As the magic apprentice read aloud, a lot of sweat oozed from his forehead. Something is wrong. It seems that the madman is not a normal person here. After all, who would think that others want to eat them all day long? Cannibalism is already despised by the law. And if the madman is a normal person, then doesn't it mean that there are really a group of cannibalistic monsters around him? Whether the madman is a normal person or not, it is terrifying. Not only the magic apprentice thinks so, but all other listeners think so too. Too depressing. Too terrifying. After reading it, everyone couldn't recover from this depression for a long time. Until Daisha whispered, eating people. So I used to eat people. Eating people! Exclamation mark. Daisha ate people! Exclamation mark. The audience was stunned and took several steps back by the news. Fortunately, there were many people and Daisha's voice was low, so not many people heard it. Seeing the reaction of the crowd, Daisha finally reacted. He smiled and then said loudly, what the madman fears and resists is not the real man-eating monster, but most of the magicians in them. In the Fast language, he, she, it, and tower are all pronounced differently. After all, how could they, who are so noble, use the same word as humble mortals? Thank you all for your awards. I have been working hard to write and add one more chapter recently. Chapter 340, Flame Demon Era. After reading Diary of Madman, everyone was shocked. It turns out that some of them have been eating people, and some have been eaten. Aren't those magicians and gods so high and mighty? They enjoy their souls and bodies at will, and trample on their beliefs and thoughts at will. Diary of a Madman. Eating people. The magic apprentice only felt his soul space tremble violently. For a long time, he wanted to be a magician. He always thought that the driving force behind him was to become stronger. Now it seems that perhaps a large part of the factor is because he also wants to become one of those people who can exploit others at will. Everyone hates privilege, but everyone wants to be privileged, which is not shameful, but it is even less noble. The magic apprentice closed his eyes tightly, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Seeing this, Daisha slowly stepped forward and whispered, "Little homogeneous." Buck Homogeneous said that it is never too late to change at any time, and you must have firm beliefs. His huge mental power belonging to a level 10 magician roared out, wrapped around the magic apprentice, and slowly guided him. At this moment, the magic apprentice was shocked, and the word homogeneous was imprinted in his mind, which instantly made him no longer have any doubts or guesses. At the same time, a sense of enlightenment resounded in his inner world. I'm actually just an ordinary person. I can't be absolutely noble, but I can be neither mean nor vulgar. These two sentences flashed through the magic apprentice's mind, and then the bottleneck that had been holding him back suddenly disappeared. The tiger's body was shocked, and he was promoted. He is now a formal magician. It turned out that he was promoted from a magic apprentice to a magician, just because of reading Diary of a Madman. Exclamation mark. Excited, he opened his eyes and saw the smiling face of Daisha. Master Daisha, thank you. The magic apprentice subconsciously raised his magic medium to salute, but was stopped by Daisha. No, call me Daisha Homogeneous. And, remember? Buck Homogeneous also said that the physical Dharma medium can salute, but the Dharma medium in the heart cannot. Daisha smiled and patted the magic apprentice on the shoulder. You and I are both of the same nature. There is no need to salute. Maybe in the future we can salute. What is the etiquette of the Dharma medium? In the cognition of the phaser people, the Dharma medium should be born to be free and vertical downward. Tilting to the left 3 times represents kneeling, which used to be the most humble and lowly etiquette. For example, a magic apprentice, when he was still in the school a year ago, when he met his teacher, a second level magician needed to perform this etiquette. And Daisha's apprentice may be more powerful than his teacher's master. This is class, this is etiquette. But now, Daisha actually called the magic apprentice homogeneous. For the first time, the magic apprentice felt the intimacy and honor brought by the same aspirations. A voice of homogeneous is good. The magic apprentice even felt that he and Daisha were the most intimate allies, close friends, and comrades in arms. He felt that he understood more why the Fire Demon King Buck was homogeneous, and the people who liked the Vanai party called each other homogeneous. Not because of the phaser people and the outsiders, not because of age and gender, not because of the magician level. As long as you have the ambition to liberate all phaser, you are homogeneous. The magic apprentice understood. Yes. We are homogeneous. The magic apprentice was already a first level magician at this time, and he was very excited and nodded desperately. Then Daisha is homogeneous. I will continue to read aloud. Okay, you continue. Daisha felt the transformation of the magic apprentice's heart, and he also felt moved in his heart. 10th level, hundreds of years. He is even approaching the end of his life. However, in the end, he realized he has always lived like a walking corpse. Without the ability to change anyone, it will always be a negative influence on others, such as the civilians who have been enslaved and insulted before. People in the past must have respected him because of his power, identity, and status. It was more like fear, terror and fear, not respect and love. And now, the apprentice in front of him is not afraid of him. Daisha gave the magic apprentice in front of him a kind of respect, and the magic apprentice in front of him also responded to his respect. It must be said that this kind of inner spiritual encouragement is really joyful and happy. Daisha felt that this was the same as what Buck said about homogeneity. Whether it is a man and a woman couple, or a man and a woman brother and sister. As long as there is one or more of the following 3 kinds of consistent values, similar goals, the same hobbies, and the same ideals, they will develop into a very good relationship. This is the origin of the mutual understanding between homogeneity. In some cases, their relationship is even more reliable and trustworthy than that of husband and wife, lovers, and relatives, because their common ideal is to liberate the new phaser. At this time, the magic apprentice who has become a magician began to continue reading The Scream of the Abyss. It was not until 2 hours later, when it was almost dusk, that he finished reading. In the middle of the way, many people who had something to do would choose to buy a book to take back. The civilians first asked about the storytelling time for the next day and prepared to listen to it again. In their minds, Mr. Buck's writing style is really excellent, and you won't get tired of listening to it several times. However, when the magic apprentice turned to the last page and finished reading, the aunt who asked at the beginning spoke again. Magicians are homogeneous. What is the thing on the back of this book? The aunt pointed to the back of New Phaser Youth, where there were some square grids with some numbers, written in phaser language. The aunt was illiterate, and she thought the magic apprentice had not finished reading, so she asked, "Did you not finish reading? Magicians are homogeneous?" This first level magician who had been promoted, turned the book over, looked at this and suddenly realized, and smiled. "Auntie, it's not that you haven't finished reading, these words are calendars." "Calendar?" The aunt tilted her head. If she was 50 years younger, she would definitely be an 18-year-old cute girl, but unfortunately she was an aunt. "That's right, the calendar." The first level magician pointed to the calendar on the back of the book and said to the audience who were gradually dispersing, "This is the calendar. Today is November 23rd, the second year of the Flame Demon era." He saw that some of the audience stopped, so he explained, "The calendar is for you to count the days. Today is November 23rd, and tomorrow is the 24th. There are 360 days in a year, 4 big months, and 12 small months. Each small month has 30 days, and a week is 7 days." These calendars were something that Lin Ke thought of temporarily, to improve the cohesion of the Phaser nation. For convenience, in addition to copying the big and small months from Nasang, he also added the setting of a week with 7 days to facilitate future planning. In the hearts of many people, this calendar was recorded. This is the first time that Phaser has distinguished history. In the past, it was called the mythology era. Since the arrival of the foreign visitors, the Flame Demon King came out to save the world and liberate Phaser as the dividing point. After that, it is called Flame Demon Era. Chapter 341, The Ice Crystal Giant Deer Chief's Son. At the end of the second year of the Flame Demon Era, it was snowy and icy. In the southern part of the Father Continent, in the wilderness outside the Black Sky City, two large armies were confronting each other. Flame Demon King Buck, I admire you very much. Leave Lin Ke and join my army, and I will ensure that you will not die. One of the sides was some elks that looked like ice sculptures. Each of them was very tall. It was the Ice Crystal Giant Deer clan of the Nasang Eternal Frozen Council. And the ones confronting them were the Flame Demon King Buck and his troops. That is, Lin Ke's troops. Ha ha ha, I admire you too. Why don't you join my army? Lin Ke laughed loudly, riding on the black gold volcanic demon bull, and was in front of the first people of Father Volunteer Army, full of vigor and vitality. The first people of Father Volunteer Army, 50,000 people, including 3,000 magicians, and the rest were ordinary mortal knights. The leading Ice Crystal Deer said nothing. His eyes were calm, but the other Ice Crystal Deer next to him, who was a little smaller, shouted coldly, "How dare you? You are just a native of the secondary plane. Be careful or we will slaughter your entire plane. So you don't want to leave Black Sky City." Hearing this, Lin Ke's face turned cold. Now, the other side didn't say anything, but began to mobilize the power of professionals. The surrounding environment is now icy and snowy, and several star-level Ice Crystal Deer on the opposite side master the laws of ice and snow. However, the leading Ice Crystal Deer has the laws of lava and fire. Homogeneous, those foreign visitors invaded our homeland and insulted our personality. For the glory of Phaser, Lin Ke raised the Thunder Wrist Force Ball in his hand high, and violent lava burst out of it, and the high temperature directly melted the ice and snow around. At the same time, his body and the black gold volcano demon bull he sat on suddenly grew larger, and gurgling lava came out of his body. "I am the king of flame demons." Lin Ke's voice spread far away, with a terrifying momentum. "For the glory of Phaser! For the glory of Phaser! For the glory of Phaser!" The volunteers of Phaser's first people shouted together, and the sound resounded through the sky. The momentum is quite good. The voice of the leader of the Ice Crystal Giant Deer was like the spring snow, light and elegant. This Ice Crystal Giant Deer was a figure of the same period as Emperor Wumian. One was the son of the chief of the Everfrizz Council, and the other was the prince of the Gila Kingdom. At that time, Wumian traveled around the world, the Holy Life Alliance, the Everfrizz Council, the Ocean of Stars and Waves, and even the other two continents. He fought with all the young generations, and rarely met an opponent. At that time, Wumian's several star-level rivals were almost indistinguishable and evenly matched. One of them was the son of the chief of the Ice Crystal Giant Deer. And now, the former Prince Wumian has become a terrifying existence that suppresses the entire plane. But this Ice Crystal Giant Deer is still a star level, and can't even break through the legendary level. In other words, most intelligent life forms cannot break through to the legendary level, and most of them die at the starlight level. Even most intelligent life forms have never been able to reach the starlight level, and this Ice Crystal Giant Deer has barely reached it with a huge amount of resources. This Ice Crystal Giant Deer spent decades consolidating the starlight level, thinking that it would only think about improving after the foundation is solid, but it has not improved much in hundreds of years. On the other hand, Emperor Wumian has been advancing triumphantly, reaching a level that his father has not reached, and he has dominated the world. Later, even Wumian's descendants have entered the legendary level one by one, and some can even fight with his father. He is still at the starlight level. And now, even the boyfriend of Wumian's youngest daughter dares to come in and challenge him. No, this buck in front of him is just a local indigenous puppet supported by Wumian's son-in-law. He actually shouted in front of him, "Everyone, kill them all." The ice crystal giant deers in different eyes burst out with a strong murderous intent. From Emperor Wumian to the puppet buck, they all deserve to die. He stepped into the air, and his icy body slowly turned red, especially the antlers, that were intertwined like branches, with flames bursting out directly from them. Exploding meteor. The body of the ice crystal giant deer rushed forward at high speed, breaking the speed of sound, and a terrifying sonic boom sounded in the air. In Lin Ke's view, the ice crystal giant deer fell like a big meteorite, with an astonishing momentum. Star level? Unable to beat? That's impossible. You have to know that in his army at this time, there are not only John and Nyx, but also his great wilderness knights. Lin Ke took the lead and subconsciously wanted to shout, "I will lead the charge," but he held back. Not far behind him, John's eyes burst into a huge amount of white light, and his hands were dancing wildly, as if he was playing the most difficult piano piece. After all, there are 50,000 people here. At the same time, Yale also controlled the energy, and a black or white chess piece fell on everyone's head, but the color of the chess piece was a little illusory. They were all leading a war of 50,000 people for the first time, and it was still quite strenuous. At this time, the ice crystal giant deer attacked, and Yale immediately changed the formation. Falcon. The endless energy gathered on Lin Ke, and Lin Ke punched, and the thunder wrist ball greatly increased his strength. Boom. Lin Ke, riding the black gold volcano demon bull, collided with the ice crystal giant deer, and then flew back at a faster speed and hit the ground. However, Yale also changed the formation in time to reduce the damage. John also shared the damage to everyone, causing everyone to feel that they were hit in the chest. Great wilderness steward John. Lin Ke is willing to do so. In the sky, the ice crystal giant deer's voice was still calm, and the murderous intent did not decrease. "Your entire army can't defeat me, and I still have so many people here. Are you sure you want to be my enemy?" Other ice crystal giant deer also came behind him, waiting for an order to slaughter all 50,000 people. At this time, Lin Ke and the black gold volcano demon bull climbed out of the pit on the ground, covered in dust, but not seriously injured. "I'm not the enemy of you. You invaded my homeland. We are protecting our own homeland." Lin Ke answered loudly, and said at the same time, "You have more people than us? Behind us are the millions of people in the whole Thassa." "Oh, millions of people. I only see." The ice crystal deer wanted to ridicule Lin Ke, but his face changed in an instant. At this time, stars suddenly appeared in the sky, emitting special light. Gods. 50 gods with medium divine power and 3 powerful divine powers appeared in the sky. One god corresponds to one ice crystal deer, and they rushed down vertically. "I can't beat you, but I won't shake people." Lin Ke grinned, rode on the black gold volcanic demon bull again, and raised his fist high. "For the glory of Thassa, you can go to the book friends circle to get the fan title. First come first served." Chapter 342, Overwhelming. In this battle, more than 50 high-level professionals of the ice crystal giant deer clan were all captured, and 5 were killed. 10 father gods died directly, and more than 30 were seriously injured. It must be said that the gods of the secondary plane are quite cowardly. Black Sky City. In the dungeon, there were cheers and roars outside, because the residents of Black Sky City had suffered enough oppression, sadness, and suffering in this long year, and were releasing it. Even in the dungeon, you can faintly hear the cheers outside, and the power from the Fanai party is rectifying the order in the city. And Lin Ke came to the dungeon, just to see the ice crystal giant deer. You know, it's already night, and the live broadcast on Nasang's side has stopped, so you can talk freely. You are the son of the current chief of the Nasang Eternal Frozen Council. Lin Ke stood in front of the ice crystal giant deer, his hands folded on his chest, with a sneer on the corner of his mouth. In front of him, the ice crystal giant deer had no reaction to his words, closed his eyes and rested, calm and composed. "My name is Buck Laglanus. What about you?" Lin Ke asked again. The ice crystal giant deer was still standing in the cell, with starlight level magic forbidden cuffs on its hooves. This kind of starlight level magic forbidden cuffs is very rare, and it is also one of the few treasures of Lin Ke. As for most of the other ice crystal giant deer, they were locked up in other places. But if the others made any unusual moves, the one in front of Lin Ke would be in trouble. Although Lin Ke would not do anything to him. After all, the chief of the ice crystal giant deer was also a master level existence. If the son in front of him died, the chief might even crush the plane of father in anger. After all, he is the master. A new legend like off can tear apart the nascent space. Now it is too easy for father to break through the weak crystal wall and space. Master level, another level up. Although I don't know if there is such a phenomenon that a blade of grass can cut off the sun, moon, and stars, it is estimated that it is very simple to crush small spaces and planes. Of course, Lin Ke didn't know what happened in Nasm. If he knew that Emperor Wumian was so awesome, he would know that the chief of the Everfrost Council would not dare to jump in front of Emperor Wumian. Haha, it's okay if you don't say it. I kill an ice crystal giant deer a day. It just so happens that we, the natives of Fasa, have not eaten much high-end goods. Lin Ke laughed. However, the ice crystal giant deer remained motionless. After all, the ice crystal giant deer is also a powerful star-level existence. It will not be moved by some simple coercion and inducement, otherwise it would be impossible to break through the star level. Even the same race is not important in their eyes. Some people put their own interests first. Just like the tribes in the Holy Life Alliance, it is not based on race, but on each tribe. Unlike the Gula people, they are known for their unity. Although there are also black sheep, they are harmless. You seem to be quite stubborn. Let's put it this way. I heard that deer antlers are good for nourishing and strengthening virility. And have someone bring a magic weapon, or ask a god to give you a divine weapon. If that doesn't work, borrow something sharp from the Lord of the Great Wilderness. Star level deer antlers should be very hard and difficult to cut. Lin Ke turned around and walked out while talking to Ender. Ender and Beibing followed behind, as well as the crazy woman and the sinister man. Yes, Ender replied. Getting deer antlers? They didn't think there was anything wrong. In other words, any phaser who is not a cold-blooded animal will not like the outsiders after seeing so many Shurascenes in the city. The outsiders don't need to treat them as an intelligent race. It's just like pigs, dogs, cows and sheep, and they don't even treat them like this. At least some oxen still have a bite to eat after plowing the land, but many phaser people are killed because they eat too much. Or they would starve to death in the depths of the mines during the mining process, and then be eaten by other Fasa people who had lost their minds and were too hungry. After the victory, if Lin Ke hadn't stopped them, it is estimated that all 50 ice crystal giant deer would have been killed. Therefore, it was just to get some deer antlers, and Ender and the others didn't think it was cruel at all. By the way, Buktangayu, I heard that the hind leg meat of deer is stewed with winter ice and snow, supplemented with milk berries and woodgrass, and the taste is unique. The sinister man walked beside Lin Ke and suggested with a smile. That's right, but I think the front leg meat of deer is also very good. There is a method in my hometown of Kyoba City that can remove all full legs of a pig and keep the pig alive. There is not much difference between pigs and deer. They are equally stupid. Maybe I can try it. Beibing also made suggestions. He hated other foreign visitors, except the Lord of the Great Wilderness the most. I want to eat deer penis. The crazy woman shouted. The atmosphere was quiet and slightly awkward. Even the expression of the ice crystal giant deer, which had not moved for thousands of years, seemed to twitch. Lin Ke paused, then continued to walk towards the door, then smiled and replied, no problem. I'll give you a whole one. The crazy woman cheered. Great. So, everyone walked out again while chatting. Unfortunately, Lin Ke didn't let the ice crystal giant deer speak in the end. He originally wanted to get some information about the arrangement and information of the Everfrost Council in Fasa, but he got nothing, and the other ice crystal giant deer were also very stubborn. No matter how much he said, the ice crystal giant deer didn't believe that the pride of the chief's son would succumb to a native. And the people brought by the chief's son, as you can imagine, are more stubborn than one. In the end, Lin Ke had to give up and prepare to start attacking the core members of other races of the Everfrost Council. In the east, the Minotaur tribe began to fight with the forces of other far west countries except the Lizardmen, and the Lizardmen were fighting with other races and tribes of the Holy Life Alliance. In just about a year and a half, almost all forces in Assen began to move. After all, no one is satisfied with the present. Everyone wants to get good rewards in the nobles' evaluation and grab more resources in this plane. As for Lin Ke, outsiders now regard Buck as Lin Ke's puppet. Everyone knows that Lin Ke and the Everfrizz Council are fighting. It's just that Lin Ke himself did not go out. However, although in the eyes of others, only Lin Ke's subordinates are taking action, everyone except Lin Ke has been sent out, including Count Tulip. Moreover, Lin Ke was the first to open up the situation in the war. With the help of the gods and the help and guidance of various people at the bottom of society, Lin Ke has gathered the right time, right place and right people, and the war situation is unfavorable. Even the humans in the Everfrizz Council are the same. Those people hate the Gila people the most, because the Gila people are much stronger than them, a bit like the sticks in Lin Ke's previous life. In the previous life, Lin Ke couldn't do anything, but in this life, Lin Ke directly cleaned up the door, and didn't give them the opportunity to clamor. In just 2 months, Lin Ke wiped out all the forces of the Eternal Frozen Council in the southern part of the entire Phaser continent. Chapter 343, Friends of the Elephant Tribe. The battle in the south is almost over. Except for some very small cities and small gathering places, these places have too few people and no one cares about them. However, Lin Ke will not let go of any place. He will develop the power of the Fanai party in all these small places, and bring them all under his command. Of course, there are still many smaller settlements and settlements that cannot be covered, and they can only be slowly polished, like in the previous life. If you want to be rich, build roads first. When transportation is convenient, circulation will also rise. With circulation, the economy will be active, and corresponding various dividends will follow. The forces from the Nasan Everfrizz Council in the entire south were cleared, and Lin Ke turned his attention to the east again. At this time, the scope of dissemination of new Phaser youth had just reached the east. Under the influence of this newspaper, 70 or 80 organizations emerged in the Phaser continent at once. What about the Sky Brotherhood, the Earth Mutual Aid Alliance, the Phaser Self-Strengthening Faction, etc.? One or two are imitating Lin Ke, or imitating the practices of the Flame Demon Buck. Some people were influenced by the ideas of new Phaser youth, and wanted to liberate Phaser, but the Fanai party was late, so they created corresponding organizations. Although some people waited for the Fanai party, they either had great ambitions and aspirations, or some conservatives who did not agree with the Fanai party's ideas. Some schools and sects transformed themselves into corresponding organizations, followed the trend, and also gathered a lot of people. In short, a lot of organizations came into being under various reasons and circumstances. Then, not long after they were born, they were either slapped to death, or they went bankrupt, because they had no funds to operate or no one joined. In the end, only 5 organizations remained: Phaser Mutual Aid Association, Sky Brotherhood, Utopia and Pious Alliance. Together with Buck's Fanai Party, there are exactly 5 local organizations in Phaser. Except for the Fanai Party, all the others could not open up the situation, and were struggling to support. Lin Ke did not suppress it, and even 3 organizations were founded in the territory of the Fanai party before, and Lin Ke acquiesced. However, those 3 organizations were abandoned in a few days due to reasons such as broken capital chain, poor management and too good life of the Wild Party. So, Lin Ke looked to the east. The east is close to the coast with jungle and plains, fertile land and humid climate, which is very suitable for reproduction. Moreover, the Minotaur tribe in the north has opened up some situations and conquered 2 cities. However, the Lizardman tribe in the east is still trapped outside a city and cannot move forward. Now the people of the Everfrizz Council have been captured or killed, and only the remaining few forces are left. In Nassau, everyone was also shocked by Lin Ke's hand. Many people originally thought that Lin Ke, who went to Phaser, could only ask for safety. Even if the members of the Black and White Knights were added, it only made people think that Lin Ke could indeed ensure safety, and it was impossible to get a good ranking. Even after Lin Ke entered, other Nasan forces were frantically occupying cities, grabbing resources and controlling the power of Fasa, but Lin Ke wrote books, painted, composed music, sang songs and so on every day. In this situation, Nasang, from noble chiefs and councillors to underground gambling, had a sharp decline in their evaluation of Lin Ke, until Buck began to act. After conquering the Karst Mountains in the east, a steady stream of sophisticated weapons were produced from the arsenal in Lin Ke's camp. What went in was iron, and what came out was enchanted weapons. Then, they went south, and began to erode the power of the Everfrest Council, obtaining a large amount of food, vegetables, and fruits. The variety and quantity of herbs also increased greatly. Nix found a lot of herbs to treat some terrible infectious diseases and plagues in Fasa. He even found a special magical plant similar to cotton. So, with sufficient supplies, Lin Ke prepared to launch an attack on the east. For 3 consecutive months, the war was raging. Lin Ke stood on the ground at this time, looking at the group of high-level professionals of the elephant people flying in the air not far away, and said loudly, "I heard from the Lord of the Great Wilderness that the elephant people and the Tauran tribe are on good terms. Why don't we negotiate peacefully? Although there are many wise men in the elephant people, most of them are honest and simple by nature. The only shortcoming is that they eat a lot, but Lin Ke likes this kind of people very much, so he doesn't want to leave a bad impression. What if he has an intersection with the elephant people's tribe in the future? Although they are not as flexible as the Tauran, or even as strong as the rhinoceros tribe, their defense is extremely high, suitable for tanks. It's a pity that the elephant people, with an average height of 4 or 5 meters, only like to make friends with races with huge bodies. Even the sleepless emperor is a little thing in their eyes, and they will not make friends with the sleepless emperor, no matter how powerful he is. So far, not many people have become their friends. They are stubborn. Therefore, Lin Ke thought that, by building relationships with these elephant people, he could avoid fierce battles, and maybe they could become comrades in the future. Minotaur? What is that? In the distance, the elephant man leading the group was so tall that he was nearly 10 meters tall. He couldn't even fly, and could only stand on the ground. The elephant man's voice was muffled, as if a big bellows was speaking. Are you talking about those bull-headed people? Groot doesn't like bull-headed people. They butt people and it hurts too much. But people. Speak clearly, otherwise there will be misunderstandings. Lin Ke felt that the elephant-headed people might not all be simple and honest. Some of them might appear simple and honest, but in fact they are smart. So he didn't care about the elephant's simplicity and said loudly, although they are annoying, they are very good friends. By the way, why don't you give up these cities? I will take you to meet more friends. No. Groot won't give them to you. Groot, the leader of the elephants, was like a child, and the starlight on his body shone around. The little ones here can farm for us, enough for us to eat. If you give it to us, we won't be full. Lin Ke looked at Groot's stomach that looked like a hot air balloon, and he was a little unsure. If this elephant tribe came over, would it eat up the Great Wasteland City? But Lin Ke still said, if you elephant tribe come to surrender, I will support you. There is plenty of food in the Great Wasteland City. If he arranged the scientific research project in the Ministry of Agriculture of the Great Wasteland City correctly, I can't say about meat, but there should be enough food. It is a great profit to exchange food for starlight level. Food? Do you think you can feed Groot and his people? Groot's voice was so loud that it was like thunder in the sky. He even ran over excitedly. Feeling the pressure, Lin Ke thought about it and decided to use his fire demon realm. Lin Ke tried his best to activate the fire demon state. His body was second only to Groot, like a small volcano erupting, with an astonishing momentum. Chapter 344, The End of the Dharma. That's right, I'll support you. Lin Ke laughed loudly. Orth had mentioned the elephant people before. The elephant people with amazing defense actually look at 2 aspects of people. The first is the body shape. It doesn't matter if you are fat, strong or have a big frame. As long as you are big, the bigger you are, the more respect you will get. The other is appetite. The more you can eat, the more attention you will get from the elephant people. As for those who can provide food for the elephant people, that will directly make the elephant people respect you. Of course, although Groot is honest, he is not a fool. If an ordinary person says that he can support the elephant people without knowing where he came from, he will not believe it. But now, the one who is speaking is the son-in-law of Wumian, the king of the Gila kingdom, and the lord of the great wasteland city and Azan, Lin Ke. I don't know if there is food, but the lava swamp is Lin Ke's territory. There are too many delicious monsters there. With the earth-shaking steps, Groot came to Lin Ke. Are you a lava giant? Groot came here, swung his huge trunk, held a huge sword with an exaggerated shape, and spit flew from his mouth. I knew a few friends before, they were also quite big, but bigger than you, not as big as me. The elephant people look at the size of the body, just like looking at the body, appearance, height and so on in the previous life. It's just the first impression, and there will be other considerations later. I see. How about it, Groot? Join our great wasteland city. If you leave the Holy Life Alliance, there will be no support for you, but I can support you. Lin Ke laughed loudly. The Holy Life Alliance can't support the elephant people. Is it true or not? Anyway, Lin Ke doesn't know, he is guessing. If the Holy Life Alliance can support the elephant people, then Groot would not be so excited just now. Moreover, as far as he knows, the elephant people with excellent defense can only be the lower life of the Holy Life Alliance. The two biggest shortcomings are that they can eat and that they are honest. However, these two shortcomings that the Holy Life Alliance thinks may not necessarily be shortcomings for Lin Ke. Okay. Groot the elephant agreed, his big black eyes full of excitement. Okay. There's food. Oh damn. Speaking of food, I'm hungry again. Hungry. 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 I want to eat too. The elephants behind him didn't have the pride of professionals above level 15, and they were all hungry like children. They hit it off immediately. The elephants were originally the lower life forms of the Holy Life Alliance, so it didn't make any difference whether they left or not. The Holy Life Alliance couldn't afford to support them, and the elephants didn't have much nostalgia. Moreover, one of the main themes of the Great Wasteland City is tolerance. Many magic beasts and various non-human intelligent life forms can live freely in the city, so they won't be excluded, hated, or discriminated against. Moreover, when Lin Ke led the army into the city, he found that the elephants didn't exploit the phaser people at all. The elephants only had one request, which was to satisfy their appetite. Although this also made the phaser people exhausted, there were no major other losses after all, unlike the previous rat people, who sometimes took pleasure in killing people. This made the phaser people under his command very satisfied. After accepting these elephant people without bloodshed, Lin Ke became more and more unfathomable in the eyes of others. They all knew that Buck was very appreciated by the Lord of the Great Wilderness for many reasons, such as being responsible, having a sense of responsibility, and having courage. So, now Buck, has he been able to accept a group of elephant people who are comparable to gods or even more powerful than gods without bloodshed? Even more than that. At the end of the second year of the Flame Demon era, the Flame Demon King Buck announced that he had referred to the records of ancient magicians, communicated with the gods above, asked the undead below, and combined with the needs of knights, wild mages and mortals, he created something similar to the Nasang profession, the magic pattern construct knight. The Great Forerunner, the Enlightener of the Phaser, the leader of the Wild Party, the Pioneer of Wisdom, the Terminator of the Magic Age, the Chanter of the Twilight of the Gods. After hard struggle, the Flame Demon King Buck finally obtained the Magic Pattern method of Nasang. Magic Pattern. This is a precious thing of Nasang besides the professionals. Some special magic patterns will be collected by major forces, and will not be used or displayed easily. Even if they are used and displayed, they will eventually become the common language of Nasang and be revealed to the outside world. The Great Buck homogeneity in the history of Phasa was at the end of the second year of the Flame Demon era. Buck announced that he would use this magic pattern method, similar to the tattoo method, to draw some magic materials on the knight and the mount through special techniques, and then become a magic pattern constructed knight. In addition, one of the characteristics of Phasa is the magic medium, and the connection between the knight and the mount is closer, which can connect the two closely. Achieve the effect of 1 + 1 greater than 2. Although the magic pattern constructed knight is not as powerful as a knight of the nascent human race and has many restrictions, such as the knight and the mount can basically only be bound, and the flexibility is too poor. But it is also the first step towards knight. After seeing the power of the magic pattern constructed knight, Buck called again and gathered the most intelligent group of people in Fasa to create magic pattern constructed warriors, archers, etc. People who were enslaved and looked down upon by magicians in the past have become hot new stars. Why? Because even if you don't have a talent for magic, as long as you have a magic pattern on your body, you can still exert your powerful strength. With the promotion of the magic pattern, your body is trained and refined like a magic weapon, and in the future you may even be able to break the legendary magic of level 10 with one punch. So, even if you don't have a talent for magic, but you have a talent for the flesh, you can also have a strong future. If you have a talent for magic, you can also choose to become a magic pattern knight or warrior. Not only can you fight in close combat, but you can also cast magic remotely, and you can also use meditation to speed up your practice. This is the magic pattern construction. So, the end of the law of Phasa has come. With the mighty all-out war on the Phasa continent, this magic pattern construction that came into being directly pushed the magician to doomsday. No need for magic talent, as long as you have a physical talent. Even a farmer can try the magic pattern construction and become a knight or a warrior. After long-term training, maybe you will become a powerful level 10 magic pattern warrior or magic pattern knight in the future, comparable to or even crushing the level 10 legendary magician. When Buck created the magic pattern constructed knight, the heaven and earth of Phasa shook, the laws were revealed, countless elements were trembling and cheering, the stars in the sky appeared one after another, and all the gods were alarmed. And the most important thing is that the Lord of the Great Wilderness was also alarmed and praised the King of Flame Demons as the future and hope of Phasa, saying that Buck has the potential to be the Lord of Phasa. Buck's name resounded throughout Phasa. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 345, Magic Pattern Construct Knight. Magic Pattern Construct Knight. This is simply the greatest invention since the birth of the Phasa plane until the Flame Demon era. This news was published in New Phasa Youth, and countless people knew about it. But the first to become a magic pattern construct knight was a member of the Flame Demon Knights. The first magic pattern construct knight, Babing. In the eastern part of Phasa, the Cloud City occupied by the original elephant race. The largest and most abundant industry here is the grain industry. This is also the reason why the elephant race targeted this place. In the city, the original central temple belonged to the green goddess of medium divine power, but now it has been requisitioned by the Vanai party. At this time, in the main hall of the temple, Babing stood naked in the center, surrounded by white beards and wrinkled old men and women, as well as all kinds of people. Next to Babing was Lin Ke. Magic pattern construct. Currently only Babing's arm has been tattooed, and the most important Dharma medium, torso and head have not been tattooed. Lin Ke held Babing's arm to explain to everyone. Babing was a little shy, his face turned red, and Feiji swung his buttocks behind him, feeling very embarrassed. But he still raised his arm to show everyone, and at the same time, he also stimulated some of the power of the magic pattern. He pinched his arm, and mysterious lines immediately appeared on his ordinary and slender arm, emitting mysterious fluctuations. This is the magic pattern. Then, Babing punched the ground hard. Boom. The power far beyond that of ordinary people burst out instantly, and the magic pattern flashed, bringing a burning power. The ground was originally made up of light green stone bricks, and walking on it was like stepping on soft and relaxed moss. On top of these stone bricks were some stones, and Babing was bombarding these stones. Originally, Babing was just an ordinary person, an ordinary 13 or 14-year-old boy. At most he had some muscles after training. Blast the stones? Sure, but not such big stones. The rocks that Babing smashed were more than 10 centimeters thick, and the cracks were full of burning marks, as if they had been burned. What a powerful force. Only a level 3 magic shield can stop it. If you add that burning breath, you need a level 4. He is subtly changing his arm while running the magic pattern. A natural talent. Brilliant. Unprecedented. The people around were amazed. They were all members of the ordinary wild party and the magicians of the ordinary wild party. Lin Ke has always emphasized to the ordinary wild party that they are not targeting magicians, but those magicians who only want to enjoy rights without assuming obligations. Those magicians who can only exploit and oppress and cannot create value. Therefore, with his efforts, the ordinary wild party is not all mortals and wild magicians. Fortunately, many magicians are indeed kind, helpful, and prestigious, so they were pulled into the ordinary wild party by Lin Ke. Now, Lin Ke is introducing the construction ideas of magic patterns to these magicians, and then gathering the strength of everyone to develop various types of magic patterns. If he relies on himself alone, how many years will it take to make enough magic patterns? You know, everyone's physique is different, and the magic patterns that are suitable for them will also be different. With the joint efforts of everyone, he believes that magic patterns will usher in explosive development. But there is also a problem of endurance. For example, Beibing's body cannot bear too many magic patterns so far. One is his age problem, and the other is the problem of physical fitness. Lin Ke introduced loudly. There are actually several main points. The first is age. He has specially checked that only people over the age of 12 can carve magic patterns, otherwise it will absorb vitality and shake the body's foundation. This means that people over the age of 12 are suitable for this path, but magicians can meditate and become magic apprentices at the age of 6. The second is energy. Magic patterns are not only driven by magic energy, and they cannot be maintained by element absorbed from the air. More energy comes from themselves. This means that people who carve magic patterns will become very gluttonous, otherwise the body will not be able to supply enough, and cannot exert the full power of magic patterns. The third is the person who enlightens and carves magic patterns. The magic pattern that Lin Ke created was actually adapted from Nassen's secret text. Among the nobles in the Gila kingdom, there were several barons and pioneer knights who were secret writers. Under their guidance, Lin Ke caught a little inspiration and created the magic pattern carver, or the magic pattern carver. In his conception, the magic pattern carver must first learn enough knowledge about the magic pattern, such as how to carve the water magic pattern, what abilities can be stimulated, etc. After learning enough professional knowledge, you need to practice with paper, animal skins, etc., and then you can practice it. The most important thing is that the magic pattern carver must have magic power. You must first be a magic pattern warrior or a magician, and then a magic pattern carver. In addition to the magic pattern carver, another important profession is the enlightenment teacher. It was adapted from the Nassen profession, enlightenment teacher. For example, Lin Ke's teacher, AOF, was a part-time enlightenment teacher before. And here, the enlightenment teacher created by Lin Ke can only be regarded as half a profession. The person responsible is enlightenment. After the age of 12, a person's soul space is stimulated, so that even if he cannot practice magic, he can use a certain amount of magic. The key is that Nassen's soul enlightenment method comes from Andrew, and it is generally not allowed to be spread to people in the secondary plane. In other planes, it may take a god to open the soul space and know his true talent, that is, to know what his bloodline is. But the Nassen people can enlighten their bloodline at the age of 6, open the soul space, know their true talent, and then choose the corresponding profession according to their talent, that is, their bloodline. This is winning at the starting line. Therefore, Lin Ke can only come up with a profession similar to enlightenment teacher, so that many people who do not have magical talent can also practice through magic patterns. The problems of the enlightenment master and the magic pattern carver have been solved, and now what is missing is the magic pattern. So, I have solved these problems. If you are interested, you can sign a divine power contract with me, and we will create a new century together. After Lin Ke introduced the situation, he looked at the people around him. This is the magician of the 13th wave of the Vanai party. There are more than 30 batches of magicians waiting to visit in batches. It is estimated that there will be about 100,000 magicians joining this magic pattern construction plan. There are too many people, and Lin Ke is too lazy to distinguish everyone's intentions, so he only needs to sign a divine power contract. There are many divine power contracts in Lin Ke. Whether it is the moon goddess or the 5-colored dragon mother, they all like Lin Ke very much, and have given a large number of divine power contracts. The divine power contract of the moon goddess is estimated to be violated even by the sky god of the same dominant level, otherwise he will be burned to death by the divine power. So Lin Ke is naturally very relieved. Sign. I sign. I'm old. I'll go first. Magic pattern engraver. It's really a beautiful and tempting profession. Forgive me, gods, I think Phaser doesn't need gods anymore, because Buck is the great god. Oh. Sky. What a wonderful body. I'll go first. I also want to be a magic pattern engraver. The magicians below were in a mess, and all kinds of magic began to surge. Obviously, these magicians who were once highly respected and whose white beards were almost dragging on the ground were very excited. With the experience of the previous few games, Lin Ke was familiar with the process. He first suppressed the restless magicians with a strong momentum, and then said, please go out and register. After registering the information and signing the divine power contract, the corresponding information will naturally be transmitted to your consciousness. Now, everyone, go to the left to sign the divine power contract. Those who don't want to sign it can go to the right. Lin Ke will not force them. Those who are willing to make magic patterns can make them, and those who are unwilling to make them will be useless. However, although the level of this batch of magicians is not as high as the previous batch, they all want to participate in the magic pattern construction business, so they all go to the left. These magicians can also vaguely guess that this kind of magic pattern can even strengthen their shortcomings as magicians. For example, physical defense, physique, etc. After they learn to carve magic patterns, they can carve them for themselves. And in the process of carving magic patterns, maybe they can feel something, which can loosen their level and bottlenecks, and there may be new improvements. As for the price of the divine power contract will definitely not be particularly harsh. After all, Buck, the Fire Demon King, is known for his generosity. If the host and the signer of the contract were replaced by that sinister wild wizard or that crazy woman, they might still hesitate. Buck, the Fire Demon King, signed. Magicians who have lived for a long time always have some judgment. They came out from the left and saw Ander, one of the giants of the Vanai party, presiding over the order and signing the contract. The content of the contract is actually nothing, but the specific method and way to become a magic pattern engraver cannot be revealed. In addition, after becoming a magic pattern engraver, you must hand in a magic pattern you created yourself, as long as it is created by yourself and not repeated, just one. Of course, you can also exchange other magic patterns you create later from the Vanai Party's database. The Vanai Party's database is another great invention of Buck, which Buck calls the internet. It is a tool that is realized through the law, but it is said that it is still under construction. Anyway, signing a divine power contract is beneficial and has no harm. As long as you hand in a magic pattern, you can control all the magic patterns you create in the future. Signed. One by one, the magicians signed the magic patterns and then returned to the hall in an orderly manner under guidance. Those who have signed can come to see Babing's situation. Be careful not to input too much magic power. Lin Ke smiled and threw a magic at Babing. This magician is called magic pattern detection. I invented it. It is used to detect the places on his body that currently have magic patterns and the places that can still bear magic patterns. A simple detection technique, supplemented by certain optical skills, becomes a magic pattern detection technique. Babing's whole body lit up with red light, which was particularly bright and dazzling on his arms, followed by his torso, head and magic medium, and the red light on his legs was the darkest. Babing's strongest part is his arms, which can bear a large amount of magic patterns, or magic patterns of higher levels, while other parts are second. In addition, the red light represents that his talent should be inclined towards fire, lava, explosion, etc. Lin Ke pointed at various parts of Babing's body. The magicians who had signed the divine power contract came up one by one and stared with wide eyes, and from time to time stretched out their hands to touch, knead, poke and pull Babing's body, accompanied by the stimulation of magic power. So that's it. The arms do have a fast flow of magic power. Well, even if the magic pattern on the right hand is not stimulated, it is slowly changing his physique. The flesh of the legs is tight, but it seems to have nothing to do with the muscle level. Phage's magic flow is also good, and the thigh seems to have been injured. Maybe this is the reason. The magicians were obsessed with research and even wanted to cut open Beibing's body to study it thoroughly. Although he had experienced it 13 times, Beibing was still a little shy and even raised his head a little. An old lady waded up after seeing this. Well, the little guy may achieve great things in the future. The wrinkles on the old lady's face were probably more than her age. This scared Beibing. These magicians were experienced in every sense, so they didn't care about it. Only a few magicians with bad taste laughed a few times. Everyone, it's almost time to go back. I believe you already have the basic magic patterns of earth, wind, water, fire, etc. that I developed in your mind. I'm waiting for your good news. Lin Ke coughed dryly and pulled everyone back to their thoughts. Everyone go out from the right. You can stay in the city and maybe you can communicate with each other. There was no way. There were still waves of people behind and they didn't have that much time to observe Beibing carefully. Beibing also breathed a sigh of relief. After the others left, before the next wave came in, Beibing was already looking at Lin Ke with a sad face. Buck homogeneity, please, why don't you carve magic pattern for Anda? I'll go out and watch them sign the contract. Although Bei Guang is now the leader of the Flame Demon Knights, he is actually just a fair-skinned boy. Except when he goes to the battlefield, he is just a heroic boy at other times. Now he looks at Lin Ke pitifully, like a cute and pitiful girl, which makes Lin Ke raise his eyebrows. My goodness, Beibing is his disciple. Lin Ke is a little speechless about himself, but he also reacted that he seems to have reached the age when his hormones are the most vigorous. He used to sleep with liquor, but now he hides from liquor every day, for fear that he will not be able to control himself one day. Liquor thinks it's fun and teases his anger every day. Well, he controls too much, and now he thinks his disciple Beibing is pretty. Okay, you two can discuss it yourselves. Someone has to demonstrate it anyway. Lin Ke waved to Beibing, then looked at the next wave of magicians. Here they come. Chapter 346 The Birth of the Internet. After several days, even Lin Ke was tired. So was Beibing. He seemed to be hollowed out and was visited, discussed, and studied by various vigorous old magicians, serious middle-aged magicians, and young magicians with bad tastes. Fortunately, he was not a woman, otherwise he would be ashamed to death. Later, he went to fight with Anda, but Anda had been a magician for many years, and he could not beat Anda at all. So he continued to be his human body research model. Fortunately, he got used to it, all numb. But after a few days, someone came to him again, also for his body research. This was a tall magician with grey hair and beard, and the enchanter robe he wore was stained with various stains, and his beard was stuck together. He held a piece of azan paper in his hand, and excitedly grabbed Beibing on the street, and wanted to strip Beibing's clothes on the spot. Fortunately, there were police on the street, and they shouted at the time to avoid this behavior. Then the magician excitedly pulled Beibing to the alley next to him. What was he doing for? It was for a search. This was the first wind magician to create a magic pattern, and he was also an 11th level holy magician. The old man created a magic pattern and wanted to pull Beibing to experiment what would happen if two magic patterns were operated at the same time. However, he was stopped in time by Lin Ke, otherwise it would be too strange. Of course, Lin Ke also pulled out the Sinister Man. All of his core members in Phaser had magic patterns, but they were all love magic patterns. Since this magician wanted to experiment, he would give them to him to experiment with. Anyway, if the magic pattern is not suitable, it can be washed away. After this magician, a large number of magicians experimented with new magic patterns. Most of these magic patterns are extensions or combinations of the basic magic patterns developed by Lin Ke, and there are also very few who have actually created some prototypes of basic magic patterns, such as lightning and power. While the magicians were studying magic patterns, Lin Ke was preparing something else. The internet. The interconnected network is called the internet. This network does not have to be the same as in the previous life, but any method can be used, as long as it can make people, or intelligent life, connect and share thoughts. The internet is a huge network connected by networks, which can be understood as the connection between local area networks. These networks are connected by a set of common protocols to form a logically single and huge coverage network. The internet can instantly send information to people thousands of miles away, and it is the foundation of the information society. Originally, Lin Ke thought that, even if there were professionals who were different from the previous life, coupled with his bug, it might take 100 or 200 years to slowly climb the technology tree in NASM to develop. But now, FASA has given him this condition. Fagi. This is one of the characteristics of FASA's plane. Each plane in the heavens and stars is likely to have huge wealth, which comes from the characteristics and differences of the plane itself. The significant difference between FASA and other planes is that the life bred in it will have something like Fagi. Whether it is FASA people or longbone horses, they all have Fagi, just like the avatar in Lin Ke's previous life. Even many non-living things can have a connection in trance to the law medium. For example, some special minerals. In the city hall of the city under the command of the Wild Party, there are such minerals, which store a certain amount of magic energy. The staff punch in, and get paid every day. And now, Lin Ke is studying how to turn this kind of mineral into an optical fiber that can transmit information. Lin Ke often avoids using his own law medium. After all, his law medium is transformed by the palace guard bracelet, not real. So when he is making connecting wires and terminals, he needs to let Babing and others do experiments. It's a pity that the research on electromagnetic waves is not perfect, otherwise the castrated version of the mobile phone that can only make calls can be tried. In the temple of the goddess of green grass, this place has been trampled by a lot of magicians and their rampant magic element riots for a period of time. But as a temple, as the appearance of the goddess of green grass, it is still well maintained as it is. At this time, the content in the temple has changed again. All kinds of minerals, dead wood, animal skins, and bird feathers of various shapes were placed here, and the characteristics of each of them were redesigned and made by Lin Ke. The shape was also. Lin Ke tried to simplify the production process of these things as much as possible, and the smaller the shape, the better. Mr. Buck, is the internet that the great wilderness lord said really that convenient and powerful? Anda was holding a thick ancient book at this time, recording data. Next to the things made by Lin Ke, there were rows of magicians, magic apprentices, and ordinary FASA people who were touching these things one by one with their own FASA. After the contact was completed, they took out a thick book and drew on it. For example, the perception ability after touching something, from level 1 to level 5. What level do you think it is? They recorded the corresponding content and feelings in the record book. Everyone had different feelings about each tool, and magicians, magic apprentices, and ordinary people also had different feelings about the corresponding tools. These data were recorded one by one, and a steady stream of people walked out of the hall, and people kept coming in. Anda recorded the data one by one on the book that looked like an ancient book in his hand. Of course, I can slightly foresee the future scene. The power of the information society may help us discover more good seedlings. Lin Ke sighed. I have had a long talk with the Lord of the Great Wilderness. I think NASM is really too powerful. Anda sighed while recording the data. That is the main plane. But it's okay. I'm glad that we met the Lord of the Great Wilderness first. Otherwise, Anda always felt that he was very lucky, otherwise he would have died long ago, and how could he have the current status and level? Perhaps, if we can form an alliance with the Lord of the Great Wilderness? Anda whispered. This is also the idea of many high-level officials of the Fanai party. Of course, it's a bit fake to say that they are allies. In fact, they think they are vassals. After all, who are the lords of the Great Wilderness? They could have been exploited and oppressed, but they chose to be friendly. For such an existence, the allies must also be those powerful lords of NASM. It's actually good for them to become vassals. Alliance? Maybe. Lin Ke smiled and said nothing. When he reveals his identity in the future, maybe that's when FASA and Dahuan will be inseparable. Okay, Anda, how's your data analysis going? Lin Ke looked at the book in Anda's hand. There, the key to whether the internet can be born is hidden. Chapter 347 The Old Man and the Sea. At present, it seems that the characteristics of the feathers of the light chicken, the ice jade tree and the mithril ore are most suitable for our requirements. And looked at the data in the book, and the recorded content quickly flowed through his mind. However, the feathers of the red sack bird and the ghost flower have the best conductivity, and the bone stone has the best compatibility. Ender introduced them one by one, and the newly added data was almost completed. When the last wave of people walked into the temple, and then walked out of the temple, the final data was finally recorded. After the recording was completed, Ender closed the book, and breathed a sigh of relief. Lin Ke patted him on the shoulder. Not bad. You have worked hard. Have you arranged the next work? I have arranged but homogeneity. Ender tucked the book under his arm, but there was a trace of hesitation in his eyes, and then he said, in addition, Ms. Yang reported that the ideal country has recently sought negotiations and wants us to support them, because we are all Fasa people. The ideal country? It's the group of people who want to use peaceful methods to resolve the current social conflicts, right? Lin Ke turned around and raised his eyebrows. The ideal country is a native organization of Phaser that was created under the influence of Lin Ke's new Phaser youth. This organization mainly believes that, since there is such a being as the Great Wild Lord, other visitors from outside the domain must also be able to communicate. The Phaser people need to impress them with sincerity and kindness, so that they will retreat on their own under the influence of love. I have to admit that Lin Ke was really stunned by this idea at the beginning. It is said that the leader of the ideal country is named Orange Heart, a level 15 sanctuary magician. Lin Ke thinks this person is really a talent. Generally, White Lotus is not so white, right? So Lin Ke basically ignored some requests and speeches from the ideal country. For example, now the Vanai party is fighting against the Nasan forces from the east and north, but the ideal country has been secretly obstructing it, wanting the Vanai party to stop the confrontation, listen to each other's voices, and influence each other. Lin Ke doesn't know how this kind of organization survives, but he fully respects this kind of brain circuit. After all, the world needs diversity. It's just that those who obstruct themselves will eventually be crushed. And now, this ideal country actually wants to ask for help? The Utopia encountered the power of the stars and the ocean of waves, and has been driven to flee to 6 large cities. Andorra reported, with confusion in his eyes. Logically, Ms. Yang would not report such garbage information. Indeed, the concept of the Utopia is disdained by all the people of the Wild Party. They don't like things that seem high-end, but are extremely empty. Under the influence of Lin Ke, they have become very pragmatic, and will not be deceived by empty talk. Especially Andorra and Babing, under Lin Ke's words and deeds, will not engage in those empty things, seek truth from facts, do things vigorously and efficiently. If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. If the upper beam is straight, the lower beam will hardly be crooked. Therefore, what the people of the Wild Party hate most are those people in the Utopia, who are intoxicated with fantasy. It might as well be called the fantasy country. Well, what you said makes sense. Lin Ke narrowed his eyes and realized that something was wrong. Ms. Yang, to be honest, is a more sophisticated person than Lin Ke. If she did something, it might be to convey some information to him. Wait, Ender, show me the sphere of influence of the Utopia. Lin Ke suddenly thought of a possibility and said to Ender. Ender didn't know what Lin Ke had discovered, but he still took out the map. The map was marked with various patterns to facilitate the identification of terrain and forces. At this time, Lin Ke drew a route on the map, which was the route of the Utopia being chased, and the route of the mermaids chasing the Utopia. In addition to the routes of several other local forces of Nasan being chased, after all were outlined, and next to him suddenly widened his eyes. This is. Ander's eyes widened, full of disbelief. After Lin Ke outlined the route map, he crossed his arms and smiled. Are they planning to surround the Lord of the Great Wilderness? Surround the Lord of the Great Wilderness. In the route outlined by Lin Ke, the end points to one place, that is, the northwest. Whether it is the north, east, northeast, southwest, or southeast, there are several forces rushing to the northwest by attacking and hunting at the same time. Perhaps Ms. Yang found something wrong, so she used the Utopia's request for support to remind Lin Ke. Andorra, there is a traitor in the organization. Lin Ke narrowed his eyes. With murderous intent, Ms. Yang can only use such obscure means to convey information. Maybe someone has lost our ideals and beliefs. Are you kidding? Ms. Yang must have discovered something. Otherwise why would she use such an obscure way to remind? You must know that the strength of the Fanai party is largely due to the support of the Lord of the Great Wilderness and the gods behind it. And the support of the gods is also said to come from the Lord of the Great Wilderness. Simply put, if the Lord of the Great Wilderness is gone, the entire Fanai party will collapse in an instant. At this juncture, there is actually a traitor in the Fanai party, and his status is not low. This should indeed be taken seriously. So Anda's face sternly nodded and said, yes, I'll check it out. Yeah. Lin Ke nodded slightly, and then stopped looking at the map, and continued to study the carrier of the internet. He wanted to get it out as soon as possible, so that he could take it to Nassan for mass production later. A few days later, the second book of the Lord of the Great Wilderness was released, titled The Old Man and the Sea. Once released, it attracted widespread attention from both worlds. How could the second book of someone who could write The Hunchback of Notre Dame of Paris be bad? Especially after many people discovered that Lin Ke seemed to have become an artist, they were even more looking forward to it. The legendary wind spreader, under the command of the Grand Duke of the Mountains of the Kingdom of Gilaran errands again, and came to Phaser to take away the book written by Lin Ke, and brought it back to Nassan for sale. Phaser was also given as a new supplement by the fast new youth of the Fanai party. Many people read The Old Man and the Sea, as if they saw the figure of an old strong man fighting with a powerful shark monster in the ocean. This kind of life song, that is willing to fight for survival, is really shocking. The publication of this article also gave courage to many farseers. Even if there is no way back, even if there is death, even if there is nothing to gain. But we still have to fight for something. An article The Old Man and the Sea inspired the fighting spirit of the farseers, especially the Vanai party, who were like chicken blood. In Nassan, many people seemed to see Lin Ke's tenacious struggle against many epic and star powerhouses with only a 14-level body. The Old Man and the Sea is popular. Chapter 348 Declaration, The Final Battle. Along with the popularity of The Old Man and the Sea, there is another piece of news. The Final Battle. Lin Ke, the human race of the Gila Kingdom, as the person in charge of this noble review, declared war on all hostile forces in the Phaser Plain. All, except for a few who are not enemies. Most of the others are actually competitors. And Lin Ke, who was originally unpopular and huddled in a corner of the northwest of the Phaser continent, now declared war on all competitors? Exclamation mark. Arrogant, ignorant, a mere level 14 existence. Even if the Great Wilderness Knights are added, how many people can it fight? At most, the 50 Knights of the Black and White Knights are counted, and they can't fight so many star level ones. Phaser gods? Even if the gods of Phaser are added together, they can't do it. In the past 2 years, the stars of the gods of Phaser have been almost consumed by the arrival of Nassan, and there are few intact ones left. And what about the people of the major forces in Nassan? One by one, they were fattened and strong. All kinds of resources were plundered, and a large number of Phaser people were captured to serve them as slaves. Even the gods are now at a disadvantage. If it weren't for the cooperation between the Vanai party and the gods, most of the gods in Phaser would have fallen several levels. That is, they would have been consumed by the people from Nassan. As for the Vanai party, in the eyes of many Nassan people, the powerless Phaser people are just slaves. If you calculate carefully, the status of slaves is not as good as cattle and horses. Therefore, after Lin Ke's arrogant declaration of war, not only the hostile forces in Phaser, but also many people in Nassan felt puzzled. You must know that these forces are not monolithic. For example, there are all kinds of hostility, contradictions, and conflicts in the Holy Life Alliance. Lin Ke has no need to do this. Of course, everyone doesn't know what Lin Ke thinks. But Lin Ke is actually a little helpless, because the dog system popped up again. Task: declare the final battle to all hostile forces in Phaser at present. Reward: Noble Review first place. Hint: give up the task and lose the opportunity to go to the Fearless Tower. Simple and simple. But Lin Ke knew from the mission that if he declared war on all hostile forces, he would have the opportunity to go to the fearless tower he had heard of before. He had actually been doubting that during the Warcraft war, he was teleported to the interior of a high tower, and in the high tower, he also saw an old man without legs. He had been thinking, maybe that wasn't true? That tower was the fearless tower. Unfortunately, he never had the chance to ask Woomian. You know, Andrew's generation is very old. It has existed since the mythological era, and it is unknown how powerful the sage Andrew is. Combined with the word fearless in the fearless tower, Lin Ke guessed that maybe he had been hiding behind the scenes, which made Andrew, who looked like an old man, unhappy. But no matter what, Lin Ke still did it. And the key is that he didn't need to say or do anything, because people had already targeted him. Judging from the information that Ms. Yang had sent back before, those hostile forces had clearly been secretly rushing towards the northwest base camp. Instead of passively responding to the battle, it is better to take the initiative to declare war. He will never surrender at any time. People will not understand your tolerance, but on the contrary support your strength. After all, everyone hopes that their leader is a courageous person. Declare war. Declare war. Declare war. When Lin Ke declared war on all hostile forces, many outsiders felt puzzled and confused, but the people of the Gila Kingdom were excited. Abyss, Greenleaf Juice Bar. In the morning, some nobles or noble ladies were tasting juice here and enjoying a pleasant brunch time. A maid came in around 10 o'clock, taking small steps very quickly, holding newspapers just delivered from the newsstand in her arms. Her footsteps were silent, and she passed each seat very lightly and quickly, and then placed a newspaper on the table. Dahuang People's Daily. Although there are many newspapers now, most of them have closed down due to poor management. There are also many left, but readers still like to read what is published by the Dahuang newspaper. The products of the Dahuang must be fine. The maid did not alarm the customers, and the customers continued to drink juice and immersed in their own affairs. Of course, some customers also saw the newspaper and picked it up to read it as soon as possible. What? A man just saw the front page of the newspaper and couldn't help but exclaimed in surprise. Some customers cast displeased looks at him, but quickly retracted their gazes when they saw that the person exclaiming was a descendant of a marquis. However, they were also aroused by the son of the marquis. What exactly was reported on the front page today? What caused the son of marquis to shout like this? Customers opened the newspaper one by one, and even though they were prepared, they couldn't help but exclaimed. For a while, there were constant sounds of surprise in the Greenleaf Juice Bar. How is it possible? It's so refreshing. This is how it should be. With your majesty here, I don't think those foreign races dare to act rashly. This is my favorite author. The nobles couldn't help their excitement and ran to the discussion room to communicate loudly with excited expressions. They were all talking about one thing, that is, Lin Ke declared war on all hostile forces. Who in the kingdom of Gila is afraid of war? No one is afraid. Many times, even two lords would have disputes and fights over a horse or a blade of grass, full of blood and vigor. This is not a world where everyone grows up from a young age to their 20s or 30s. The human race here will experience battles since childhood, and only some particularly corrupt nobles will have no fighting power at all. Like Lin Ke, although he is extremely talented, he has been writing books and painting, which makes people feel that it is not very interesting. Many people watch the live broadcast of people from other forces, such as the human race of the Everfrizz Council, who collide and fight with the gods in various ways. It makes people's blood boil. In the past, it was all noble ladies and young ladies who were very attracted to Lin Ke's elegant appearance. If it weren't for Lin Ke's strategizing and using a mere native of Phaser to completely defeat the people of the Everfrizz Council, the nobles would not know how to belittle and ridicule him. And now, Lin Ke directly declared war. Especially before declaring war, he wrote a book, treating himself as a weak old man and other forces as the sea and big fish. This kind of brave spirit that, although he is weak, he will fight to the end made a group of Abyss nobles cheer loudly. Lin Ke's leisurely behavior before was also seen as a strategic plan to win the battle thousands of miles away. After all, before the old man fought with the world in the big fish, he also had to polish the spear gun, fishing net and boat. Lin Ke's previous preparations were very reasonable. So, the men in the abyss and Gila were all boiling. Chapter 349. I will only let the black and white knights take action once. At the same time, another sentence in the newspaper made people's blood boil. I will only let the black and white knights take action once. The ancestors of the human race fought hard in Nassing, and they always defeated the strong with the weak. Today, I seem to see the bloody figures of our ancestors. I will follow the glory of the noble ancestors, and with my weak strength, I will only let the black and white knights take action once. For the rest of the battles, I will lead the charge. They couldn't hear Lin Ke's voice, but the words on the newspaper seemed so sonorous and powerful. The black and white knights. There are 50 black and white knights. With the black and white knights, Lin Ke can definitely sweep them all. After all, the knights of other races are different from the knights of the Gula people. Just like in the previous life, the strongest army on the surface of the earth is not comparable to other armies. In terms of essence, energy, spirit, body and other aspects, the black and white knights are the trump cards to dominate Nassam. However, Lin Ke cut off his own arm and promised to use the black and white knights only once, and the rest of the time he would only defeat the strong with the weak. This made many people think of the war more than 10 years ago, the Lava Swamp War. At that time, Count Lin Ke was like a young eagle, making his first appearance in the Gila Kingdom. A mere 6-year-old child, when his father was away, actually resisted the attack of the entire lava swamp through various means. The phrase leading the charge is also a topic of conversation for many people in their spare time. Many people in the Gila Kingdom are still as brave as ever. They admired Lin Ke, who led the charge back then. But now, when Lin Ke firmly shouted out his words again, many people's views on him changed from admiration to passionate worship. Nassang, as in territory. Good. Leading the charge. This is the glory of the ancient nobles. It's so exciting. I can't wait to rush to the Holy Life Alliance for a big battle. A group of Azan nobles are holding an afternoon tea party, and several Azans are discussing loudly there. Since Lin Ke came to power, the entire Azan territory has been united, and even Garros can only be a general leading troops to fight, mainly because Lin Ke has the final say. After all, Baron Sandal and others really disgusted Lin Ke. Of course, Baron Sandal became Lin Ke's lackey in the end, and was assigned to work under Lady Black Mountain. He worked diligently and well, but this was also caused by Garros' poor internal affairs. Lord, you can't just fight and kill. Garros also knew this, so he gave it to his son to deal with. Under Lin Ke's iron-blooded wrist, the noble council of Azin was directly disbanded by Lin Ke, and the entire Azin was highly centralized in his hands. For example, the boring and extravagant noble banquet. Lin Ke stipulated that each noble could not hold a banquet at will, and must report to the city hall for approval 1 week in advance, and the reason for the banquet must be clearly marked. Each noble can participate in and host no more than 3 banquets per month. At the same time, because the nobles cancelled the right to collect taxes and the ownership of the people, they directly lost their source of funds, and could only get their wages by serving in the city hall. No one dared to say anything. The heads of the 7 or 8 old men in the family council were still hanging on the street lamps. Fortunately, Lin Ke did not do anything too extreme. He also paid a certain salary according to the professional level and title, and did not prohibit the nobles from engaging in commercial activities. At this time, this afternoon tea party was initiated by a certain Mazan. There are too few opportunities for banquets now, only 3 times a month, so ordinary Azan will not go, unless they have a very good relationship. Of course, being able to participate in one of the 3 opportunities proves that there is indeed a certain relationship. For example, those who came here this time are all Azan who are determined to make progress, not those who just want to eat and wait for death. It's really refreshing. Master Lin Ke is worthy of being the leader of our Azan. An Azan man drank a glass of juice quite heroically, his face flushed with excitement. The same is true for another Azan man, wearing a tuxedo and looking very energetic. That's not it. I have decided that I must apply for the next conscription. The level of knight is all learned on horseback. Everyone discussed it with great interest, and so did the several noble ladies who were brought here. Hehe, I really want to switch with Princess Lin Ke. A young woman in her 30s still looked charming and seductive. Another noble lady next to her glanced at her unhappily. "You little slut, be careful, that Princess Lin Ke will kill you." Then, the man looked at the young woman's husband, a middle-aged man who looked quite majestic and had a strong body, and licked his lower lip with a bright red tongue. "Why don't we switch?" The young woman looked at the sunny smile and lively body of a young man over there and smiled. "I think it's okay." In short, men talked about men, women talked about women, and of course, most people were talking about Lin Ke's deeds, especially Dahuang City. Under the Dahuang Tower, countless Dahuang citizens were excited. Just as Lin Ke thought, no one likes their leader to be a cowardly and incompetent waste. Even if he fails, but dares to show his sword, the people will respect and love him. But the misty princess who was reading a newspaper in a milk tea shop still curled her lips. What one chance? Father only gave you one. Princess Misty felt that Lin Ke was too pretentious. She knew that the black and white knights would only have 3 chances to go. Lin Ke was used once in the first battle, and now there are only 2 chances left. What's the point of only using him once? Princess Misty felt that if Lin Ke was cut open, his internal organs would be black. "Mist, is this the Lin Ke you are talking about?" At this time, next to Misty, there was a handsome and charming man. When the man spoke, you could vaguely see a tongue stud on his tongue, which added to the man's weirdness. Yes, Princess Misty didn't look like a big devil in front of Ricker at this time. Instead, she looked like a delicate little woman. This little guy is the apple of Ricker and his father's eye, but he is really good. More than 10 years ago, I passed by here and thought about a little nobleman who didn't go to see it. I didn't expect. The man smiled gently and then whispered, "Artist." He is still an artist. The man shook his head gently, seeming a little regretful. "Ruwen, you don't have to be like this. Although your bloodline is not suitable, it's pretty good now. Your main job is soul manipulator, and your part-time job is artist. How good." The Mist Princess smiled. The man smiled, and then his face became serious, and he said to the Mist Princess, "There is still about a year left. Have you thought it through?" "Of course." The Mist Princess narrowed her eyes. "Big Brother and the others are not honest, and we have to accumulate strength as soon as possible. Lin Ke, this little guy, can cooperate. It's the weekend. Please vote for me." Chapter 350. Dearman in the Forest Cabin. Spring is about to pass, and summer is coming. The goddess of the 4 seasons of Phaser slowly walked across the land of Phaser. The spring rain gradually disappeared, and the sun was scorching. Of course, this is most places. Where the wild party is, it is at most a little hotter than spring. As for many areas, that is the normal temperature. Hot when it should be hot, dry when it should be dry. After all, the goddess of the 4 seasons is just a weak god, and it is not her turn to decide how the 4 seasons will be. At the same time, the crows raised by the god of crows are all over the northwest region, outlining the enemy's movements for Lin Ke. At this time, the northwest base camp, one by one, the knights stood on horseback with sharp eyes and firm expressions. If they were not a little fat, they would definitely have a more solemn feeling. The Great Wilderness Knights. After going out to fight with the wild party, the Great Wilderness Knights are now full of energy and fighting spirit. In addition to the Great Wilderness Knights, there are other teams of the Gular people, such as Viscounts and Barons. They have been gathering their strength for a year, and then followed the Fanai party to fight everywhere for a year. Now they are full of energy and are looking forward to the war. They all looked forward, and Lin Ke stood on the high platform with a group of nobles. Lin Ke naturally stood in the center, at the front, with a high-speed spinning thunder wrist ball in his hand. Everyone. Lin Ke's voice was heard far away through the sound amplification technique, and everyone could hear his voice clearly. My human ancestors rose from Nasang in times of crisis, fought bloody battles, and continued to fight. They stood out among all the races, and stood at the top of Nasang. Now, Nasang is in turmoil again. Emperor Wumian appointed me as the leader of the human race in this noble evaluation, intending to wield the sword and win the first place in this noble evaluation, overpowering all the races. Lin Ke's voice was loud, and accompanied by a special way of speaking, which sounded ups and downs and sonorous. In his soul space, the leader bloodline was glowing slightly, and there were 2 branches on it. One was a knight, a level 12 knight. The other was a leader, profession that the system had rewarded. With leader as the core, Lin Ke could integrate all professions such as staff, military theorist, and war maniac into it. If long-range attacks are mainly scholars, scientists, and artists with knowledge as a core, then leaders are mainly knights for melee combat and leaders for gain. As for inventors, above luck, Lin Ke has not improved much. At this time, the leader bloodline glowed slightly, subtly influencing Lin Ke's behavior and words, making his words more inspiring and more able to gather the will of the people. The people of Fasa were once enslaved by alien races and invaded by powerful people just like us. We are not going to rescue them, but we can cooperate with them and attack those hateful enemies together. Defeat them one by one, occupy their resources, get the first place in the noble evaluation, and then go back in glory and become a new noble. Lin Ke waved his arms vigorously, not only inspiring people with righteousness, but also giving everyone the limited benefits behind it. We are doing the right thing. We are forced to do it. There are benefits for us to do the right thing. These people are full of blood, and they are even more excited under Lin Ke's call. For the glory of the Gila people. Lin Ke raised his arms and shouted. Everyone was also very excited, and they shouted on the backs of their mounts, for the glory of the Gila people. For the glory of the Gila people. For the glory of the Gila people. The voice resounded through the sky, and even the Nasan people on the other side of the live broadcast were driven. Like the human race in the Holy Life Alliance and the Everfrizz Council, all those who could watch the live broadcast were moved by Lin Ke in the picture. They are the human race of the Holy Life Alliance or the Everfrizz Council, but compared with the human race of the Kingdom of Gila, perhaps the human race of the Kingdom of Gila is the one who truly stands on the top of Nasan. At this time, stars suddenly appeared in the sky, the gods of Fasa. After knowing Lin Ke's purpose, the gods were also very excited. Expel those foreign visitors from Nasan as soon as possible, and let Nabat play for 100 years, and then they will return to rule. Therefore, many non-combat gods appeared at this time, and cast all kinds of divine blessings on Lin Ke's troops. Crow will give you extraordinary vision. No longer confused in the clouds and mist. Your swords will burn the fire of hell. One by one, the gods blessed this side crazily, and for a while, the training ground was shining. At the same time, the god of crows also sent a message to Lin Ke, Lord of the Great Wilderness. The first wave of enemies has arrived. Hearing this, Lin Ke waved his hand to the warriors and said, all troops, attack. After that, he jumped off the high platform, turned over and rode on the lava lion. The other nobles did the same, and went down to lead their own teams. It is actually difficult for different teams to fully cooperate, unless they have been carefully calculated, trained, and arranged. There are many hostile forces, so there is no need to fight in a group. Several teams set off quickly and rushed in their respective directions under the guidance of the god of crows. Outside a bush somewhere, a group of Fasa people are rushing to a certain place. Judging from the number, there are at least 100,000 people. 100,000 people. It is so huge that you can't see the end at a glance. Among them, there are more than 500 people who look like Nasan, scolding and driving them away. Hurry up. Speed. Those who fall behind will die. You inferiors, hurry up. The largest number of Nasan people are the deer people with antlers on their heads. In the center, a young deer woman was moving her 4D legs gracefully, holding a small and exquisite green bow in her hand, with indifference between her eyebrows. Saint, the gathering place of the Gila kingdom is 100 kilometers ahead. An old deer man standing nearby said to the young deer woman, HMM. The saint of the deer woman nodded slightly, then frowned and looked up at the sky, saying, I always feel that something is spying on us. Maybe it's the gods. The old deer man next to him looked at the sky with a solemn look. I wonder what happened to the other forces. They can't beat Earl Link by themselves. Ignore them. The deerman saint said indifferently, use these phaser people to consume the charge of Night Link, and then we will charge up for another attack. Okay. The old deerman smiled. These phaser people can consume Link's charge. Even if they return to the embrace of nature, it can be considered as making the best use of them. In his eyes, the phaser people are like the grass on the roadside. If they die, they die. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like, Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.